Welcome in. Thanks for being here. This is Beyond the Box Score Week 12. Just me today. No Dan Schneier. We have put Dan through almost a 3-hour episode yesterday. That was a lot of fun, and I think a really good episode to help you guys, anybody who's still live in the fantasy playoffs, help you get ready for the stretch run here. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can see it on the screen here. 15 league winners. Did some rest of season rankings yesterday. We're going to do some rest of season rankings today as well. In yesterday's league winners episode, we went through, so Dan and I each planted our flag on, some players that we think are, have the potential to deliver that every week spike during the fantasy playoffs and help push you over the top. That was at the end of the episode that we did our flag plants. But the purpose of yesterday's episode was more about highlighting some maybe lesser known players, some players that you might not suspect will be fantasy league winners, some players that you might even be able to get off your waiver wire, still might be on your waiver wire is my guess for some of these deeper dives that we did yesterday. So go check that out if you've got time to watch a full feature length movie, Beyond the Box Score, 2.5 hours. It's really good stuff. So yeah, today we've got a bunch to talk about as well. Don't think it's going to be that long, but going to talk about some rookies: Tetairoa McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, Jayden Higgins, and another surprising rookie that are kind of breaking out here that I want to give you some details on. Going to hit some rest of season rankings, some listener questions. Shout out the live chat, of course. I'm hoping to find some good questions to highlight during the rest of season rankings discussion as I show you my rest of season rankings here on the screen. Just find some questions, some players that you're curious about to give you a bit more detail on. So if there's somebody that you're curious about that we haven't talked about that much on the program this year, go ahead and throw that in the chat and I'll see it. Maybe producer Debo will see it. And we can get eyes on that. But yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you to everybody who shows up and supports the show, whether that's as part of the live chat community or listening later on audio. I know that what we're doing here isn't the most easily accessible. I kind of make jokes about the 2.5 hour show. It is long shows a lot of the time. I'm often showing up here with sort of sleepy energy because I've been up late grinding Woody Marks versus the Titans tape. And that takes a lot out of a person, but it has been very fun to show up here every week, give you guys as much content as we can. And I think this offseason will be a lot more streamlined. So I'm really looking forward to that when we have more spaciousness to focus on the delivery side of this. But for now, it's mostly just been what can we give you guys that is important? Just give you the goods. What can we give you to help you win in fantasy? And it's been fun to see a lot of the same names showing up here week after week in the comments. I see you. Thank you for being here. It's been fun to kind of track this season as it's gone along. There have been some teams, some managers out there that have told me they took a lot of risks early in draft season and stuff, and it didn't pay off. So they had a rough start, but now they're coming around, whether that's Travion Henderson or whatever it may be, that's kind of come around lately for them. Maybe they've had to wait out injuries to Brock Bowers or whatever. So it's been a really fun season. It's been fun to ride the wave, and to do that with all of you. And hopefully we can capitalize here at the end, because there is a bunch of chaos for sure. And so there's still, I think, some players who are undervalued. People don't really know what to do with these players. So that's kind of the purpose of yesterday's show and today's show. Today, we're going to go through every single team, look at all the usage notes. So looking forward to it. Okay, so before we do that, the goods. I promised you the goods. Let's get to the goods. Tetairoa McMillan. A lot of questions about Tetairoa McMillan lately. Is he a league winner? Have we finally arrived at a point where we can trust Bryce Young, this Panthers offense, Tetairoa McMillan? Lately, kind of, right? I mean, I think that's why we're getting all these questions, is because lately it's been better, especially last week. What I've got here on the screen is, you can see this is his game log with week 11 at the top, week 1 at the bottom. And you see a lot more blue towards the top if you're watching on YouTube. That's because I underlined the games where his yard per run rate was above 2. That's 4 straight games. Through the first 7 games, he only had 2 of those. Another underline here is any game with over 40% or at least 40% of T-Max routes being horizontally breaking routes, which if you're new, those are important for fantasy because they're much more likely to draw a target. 49% more likely to be targeted on horizontally breaking routes than vertically breaking routes. They're worth more fantasy points, mostly because they are more likely to be targeted. So vertically breaking routes aren't bad. They give you upside. And it's been cool to see T-Mac win on some of those at points this year. But I am encouraged to see this. And I think that it makes sense. We've heard Dave Canales talk about wanting to get him more involved this way, move around the formation where he doesn't always have to be in the toughest spot, going out and winning in isolation against the best cornerbacks. I think getting Jalen Coker back impacts this and allows for more creativity in how all the pieces are moved on the board here. And we're seeing that with T-Mac. And of course, the recent spike week was great. We know how good he is. We've talked about it all year. I mean, you can see like the win rate here is really high, at least 12%, which is well above league average. If you dig into this is per the Fantasy Points data suite, by the way. They chart every route and assign a separation score, a win rate, and every single game for T-Mac except for week 7, he's turned in a really solid win rate, which is really, really impressive for a rookie. This is a really, really good player. We just haven't known if we've been able to trust it for fantasy, and I don't know for sure that we're there yet, but it feels a lot better now than it did a month ago. A couple other rookies I wanted to hit on. Here is the same thing for Emeka Egbuka, 66% horizontally breaking route rate this past week. It has been at 54% or higher in each of the past 3 weeks. So you maybe have noticed that we haven't seen as many big wins down the field for Egbuka like we had early in the year. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, even though those big wins haven't been there and the fantasy points haven't been as high lately. I don't think it's a bad thing that he's getting these routes. I think it raises the floor for him. And I think that the offense is only going to keep getting better. The schedule shapes up really nicely down the stretch. The offensive line is playing well. We've got the return of Bucky Irving, potentially Chris Godwin soon too. This is, I think it's a good thing to get him going in this way. I think this is probably where Egbuka is at his best. And so this to me is a good thing. But I know it hasn't been as good lately. So I just wanted to let you know that I wouldn't panic about where we're at with Egbuka. He's getting a massive target rate, 34% target per route run rate on horizontally breaking routes over the past month. So I think this is by design. They're trying to get him more catch and run opportunities. Just wanted to bring that up. The win rate is down over the past 2 games. So I guess that's something to keep an eye on. But if you remember the separation score wars with Egbuka at the beginning of the season, you hopefully know like not to overreact to any of this data. He does not have to win with separation. He can win with a wide variety of different skills, whether that's at the catch point, after the catch. He's just a really well-rounded player. Next rookie, Jayden Higgins. First pick of the second round among wide receivers. Maybe the first pick overall, I can't remember. But ahead of Travion Henderson, ahead of Luther Burden, Jayden Higgins was picked really early, and we're seeing him really come on strong lately. And part of that is more horizontally breaking routes, which seems like a good fit. Matt Harmon obviously does great work for reception perception. He charts these players in college. He charts the routes as pros. And his evaluation of Higgins basically is that the best fit for him would be as a big slot type of player, and more of a horizontally breaking winner than somebody who's going to just be lining up on the perimeter and winning down the field. I think his size maybe would suggest that he's a Nico Collins type, but I don't actually think that is who he is at this point in his career, at least. So lately, a lot more of these high horizontally breaking route rate games, and we did see best game of the year in week 11, 16% route win rate, 2.2 yards per route run. good stuff from Higgins, who again doesn't have to win with separation, can win at the catch point, can win after the catch a little bit more than people might realize. So good to see him coming on strong lately. And then the surprise rookie, Pat Bryant, had a breakout in week 11, 82 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs. He has been emphasized as a horizontally breaking route winner all year. Even in the preseason, they were just spamming these routes. And Sean Payton did compare him to Michael Thomas this summer. So I think this is interesting. This is with Marvin Mims back in this game. Pat Bryant was still really involved. They're playing him in the slot a lot. Like I think it was like a 78% slot rate this past week with all four receivers there. Troy Franklin and Cortland Sutton working more on the perimeter. So this is really interesting to me because in college, Pat Bryant was more of the isolated X receiver type, like a Cortland Sutton. When he was drafted, I figured that was probably going to be his role, was like replace Sutton. This is the long-term replacement plan for Cortland Sutton. They drafted him around 3, which surprised me. I thought he was more of like around 4 or 5 type of player, just like a come in, be a solid X receiver, kind of like a Cedric Tillman archetype or something like that. But it seems like Sean Payton has a different kind of vision for him as more of this intermediate, over the middle of the field type of winner. And we've seen him really kind of come into his own lately over the past month. A couple, really, I mean, over 2 yards per run over the past month is really good for any player, especially a rookie. Positive separation score in 3 out of those 4 games. Really high win rate this past week. And it's come with, 68% of his routes being horizontally breaking routes. So that's interesting to me. If he stays in that role, he might actually be fantasy relevant for deeper leagues this year, which is not what I would have guessed. I thought he was probably more like a long-term project here. I've got some notes on Denver later that we'll get to when I go team by team. I think that we might see them go more pass heavy, and so that could be good for Pat Bryant here. Nix, yeah, the chat goes, Nix is not consistent enough. You don't have to tell me for sure. That is true. But he played really well against the Chiefs. I think we've seen him at times show up for big moments. He made every play that was needed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this past week. We saw him play really strong football down the stretch last year. In the second half, he was much, much better than the first half. He's actually one of the more accurate quarterbacks when throwing down the field in the second half of 2024. So I'm keeping an open mind to the fact that it could be better for the Denver Broncos. Let's stay with the Denver Broncos here. I want to talk about Troy Franklin too before we dive into rest of season rankings. So I think the Pat Bryant and Jayden Higgins note here, even Tetairoa McMillan, like these are, again, just another reminder for you that rookies often take time. And some rookies don't even get there until year 2, or year 3. And so on that note, let's talk about Troy Franklin, year 2 wide receiver for the Broncos. It was a pretty rough year for Franklin last year. 6th highest route win rate over the past month among qualified receivers belongs to Troy Franklin. He's really been pretty good. We've talked about his usage a lot this year because he's had a crazy role, and it's really taken away from Cortland Sutton. I mean, you look at the target per route run rate in these games over the past month. 26%, 33%, 26%, 33%. That's really, really high, and it's every single game over the past 5 games, 29% in week 7. But the results haven't always been there. I mean, you see multiple games here with a yard per route run rate below 1. I think that's mostly Bo Nix. Franklin isn't perfect at the catch point for sure, but the separation has been really good. So in his first 7 games, Troy Franklin topped out at a 13% route win rate. Again, per the Fantasy Points data suite, cannot speak highly enough about what they do here, what they provide, and the cost. It's very, very cool that this is accessible to us at this cost. 13% was the highest that his route win rate was in any of the first 7 games. He's hit that rate in 4 straight games. So it seems like more consistency from Franklin is what we're seeing. And the Broncos seem to have been keying on this for a while now because they've really, really emphasized Franklin, not only as the catch and run guy that he has been, at times last year and early this year, but also as a downfield route winner. And so that's really interesting to me. I've moved him way up my rankings. Yeah, we'll get to Denver. We'll spend more time with the Denver Broncos in a moment. So yeah, rookies often take time. You're seeing it, Travion Henderson. Hopefully RJ Harvey, speaking of the Denver Broncos, hopefully RJ Harvey coming out of the bye week here. Rookies take time. Your patience might be rewarded. I know that it's not easy, but here are some reminders of how it can be worth it to wait on these players. If you're in dynasty leagues or even if you're in redraft leagues, if you can afford to be patient with a bench spot and you've got a player you think has a lot of upside, Bashal Tootin last week, out of nowhere kind of, right? Like, wasn't the logical, like after the bye week breakout, it was the next week. So we do our best to navigate this and make the decision that seems like it makes the most sense. But sometimes the answer is just that it's coming and we don't really know when. But good players most of the time get opportunities. So if you think a player is good, do your best not to give up on him. We've talked about the balance of needing to also get points, get wins. So like don't get yourself in sunk cost fallacy where you're just losing because you're holding a bunch of players that aren't doing anything for you. But yeah, try not to overreact to some of these slow starts. Alrighty, going to take our first break here. When we get back, we'll dig into some rest of season rankings.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Starting at quarterback, I did just update these. Let me know if anything looks off because it is a lot to keep up with all of it. But I did just update these, and you can see on the right here is the expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros, and this verse ECR is how high or low I am relative to consensus ranking. So you'll see I'm much higher on Baker Mayfield, it appears. I've got him at quarterback 6. Makes sense. He has not played all that well this year. Hasn't looked like the same guy. 3 straight games without any runs is uncharacteristic. We did see him against the Bills get back to running. I wonder if he's maybe been playing through an injury or something. So if you're not feeling it with Baker, there's lots of good quarterback options. Honestly, like after like Mahomes and Drake May, like this range is really, really fluid from Baker Mayfield all the way down to like Jacoby Brissett. But I do really like the schedule for the Bucs. The Rams defense is playing freaking great right now. So this one might not quite live up to some of the shootout potential that I thought it might have. But after that, they get the Cardinals, then the Saints, then the Falcons, then the Panthers, and the Dolphins. So just want to keep the light on for Baker for this offense to produce because we know they can produce at a really, really high level. We'll see. I think a lot of the Baker stuff could just be due to the fact that he's had to play with like his 4th, 5th, 6th string receivers, We'll see how this develops if things get healthier here. But yeah, after that, it's Dak Prescott for me. And then I've got Justin Herbert and Jackson Dart here, but I don't know if they belong here. They might both see the rushing scaled back. I've got Caleb Williams next. I'm not really confident that he belongs here. If you want to move Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy ahead of him, I'm totally fine signing off on that. I talked about Caleb a lot on yesterday's episode with Dan. We talked about Rome Odunze, the tight ends, and specifically the running backs, who I think could be huge for fantasy down the stretch. And if that comes to fruition based off the way the schedule lines up, then that might mean not quite as much passing. So Caleb's been pretty dang good for fantasy, but maybe that tapers off in the second half. And then, yeah, after Purdy, who definitely could push up higher, Stafford could push up higher. They've been playing well enough to belong there for sure. Goff, all these dome games. Knicks, I said I'll talk about the Broncos. I think they might pass more. After that, it's Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, and Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, man, just putting up crazy numbers here. QB7, QB12, QB10, QB10, QB4. I don't know if there's any reason to expect it to change, really. Like, I doubt he'll keep throwing. I doubt he'll throw multiple touchdowns every single game. But he could. The schedule's great. Like, other than the Rams and the Texans here in week 14 and 15, everything on the schedule looks pretty good, especially if you make it to 16 and 17 and it's still Jacoby Brissett. Could be huge. The Arizona players are really, really interesting as like potential league winners because you just don't know exactly what it's going to look like in Arizona by week 16, 17. But whoever is still standing, whoever's still playing, they've got the Atlanta Falcons and the Cincinnati Bengals in those weeks. So I'm pretty intrigued. Here's the rest of the rankings. These are 4-1 quarterback leagues, so I lean a little bit higher towards upside with guys like Jayden Daniels and Joe Burrow. Yeah, it's pretty ugly down here. I moved JJ McCarthy down. I am really nervous that this next stretch, Green Bay and Seattle on the road, is going to be the end of the season for JJ McCarthy. But maybe they keep him out there all year. If so, the rest of the season schedule is really nice. We talked about that yesterday in relation to Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Think things could set up really well for the Vikings. There's a lot of teams like this where it's like there's like 4 or 5 teams. The Vikings, the Dolphins, the Cardinals, where the schedule is really nice at the end of the year, but I just don't know what to expect in terms of who's going to be there, if the team's going to be playing for anything. So I'm just going to emphasize them as much as I can to you guys so you have that in the back of your mind. Like as we move through the next few weeks, maybe it ends up being Ollie Gordon or whatever. You don't know who it's going to be, but there are, I think, potentially some players who might really be able to help you with these soft matchups at the end of the year. All right. Here are my rest of season running back rankings. Got Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane at the top. That's basically a tier break for me. And Bijan is in that tier too. They're interchangeable. Obviously, CMC has been better than Gibbs, but I think the role lately is really encouraging for Gibbs. Season highest snap rate he's had in a game that David Montgomery also played in. After that, it's kind of a harsh drop off. I've got some notes on James Cook and Javonte Williams. We've got Cook at running back 6 and Javonte at running back 10. I still feel reasonably optimistic. I helped out with the Wednesday show today of FFT, and I know they were a little bit nervous about Javonte, and it hasn't felt as good lately. He has no touchdowns in either of his past 2 games. Arizona and Las Vegas felt like they should have been good games for him, but they weren't. But I mean, the workload is good. I'm not panicking yet on Javonte. Rico Dowdle is kind of the end of this range for me. We've got Dan and I talked about a lot of these players yesterday. Chase Brown, Trayvon Henderson have the upside to pass anyone from that group that I just gave you. Like after Bijan Robinson and Achane, it's not a great. I don't feel great about any of these guys. Saquon Barkley has a great schedule. It could be him, but Lane Johnson being out is pretty rough. The chat says it's over. Bada bing says it's over for Javonte. Yeah, I don't know. That's how it feels for a lot of these running backs. Kind of is like it's kind of rough. What are we going to get from Bucky Irving? That's the question I've been just begging somebody to give me an answer to for weeks. It's where we're at with running back. It's been another weird year here where we've got some clear league-winning bell cows at the top, but I don't really know what to make of this range. Travis Etienne, we'll see what the news is like on Bashal Tootin, but ankle injury could be something that's recurring. If Tootin's able to get going, the quotes from the coaching staff, from Liam Combs specifically lately, have been really good. Really exciting for Tootin, and obviously the play last week was great. So Etienne could drop from this range. I've got him just behind Chase Brown, Trayvon Henderson, and Breece Hall. But what if Tootin is out? Like they're leaning on the ground game right now. I've got some notes on that we'll get to. If Tootin misses much time or any time of these next couple of weeks, Arizona, Tennessee, those could be huge games for Etienne. Week 15 against the Jets could be a huge game. After ETN, I have DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Walker. Talked about both of those players. Talked about Walker a lot on yesterday's podcast. Ashton Genty. How about talk about 6'7", 6 carries, 7 rushing yards. What do we do with that? Love to see him getting more involved in the receiving game, but even still, like 6 fantasy points in half PPR leagues yesterday. This is why I've been moving to town. I've been real nervous about Genty and the Raiders. Their offensive line is abysmal right now. Jaylen Warren and Josh Jacobs at running back 2021 here. Could be much higher, have been much higher in my rankings. I don't know what to expect. I get nervous about injured players, especially on teams that like have playoff aspirations here. That maybe they're and have another running back in the backfield that's playing well, that maybe we'll see them kind of limited to keep them healthy down the stretch. We'll see. Quinshon Judkins, got some notes on him. Some of the schedule looks all right. You know, I don't want to move him way down, but he's kind of like Genty, where it doesn't feel good. And I don't know if he has quite as much explosive play potential as Genty. So you really need touchdowns. Most of the time you're looking at like 10 points or something like that as a good outcome. We have, 3 of the past 5 games have been 6, 3, 4 and half PPR formats. That is really, really hard to stomach from a running back 1, running back 2 kind of player. And so why not, in my opinion, why not Kyle Monangai over him? Why not Woody Marks over him? That might sound crazy because Judkins is getting way more work right now. Judkins is this beast of a back, this workhorse dog, like everything you want to say. He's a really great talent, obviously. Turn on some Kyle Monangai film. He is really good. Woody Marks is playing really well too. And I feel a little bit better about the Texans. Their defense is really, really good, like the Browns, and then their offense is like actually able to facilitate functional drives at times. I don't know what we're getting out of Cleveland with a QB play. It could be really, really rough. Talked about Monangai a bunch on yesterday's show, so if you're shocked by his ranking here, you can find that. We've got timestamps on every player we talked about yesterday. Aaron Jones, running back 25, tons of upside, but don't know. Kind of like JJ McCarthy. Is he going to last through this Green Bay, Seattle road trip here? If so, could be awesome. But also it could be Jordan Mason at the end here if Jones doesn't hold up. We'll see. They loaded him up. He got 19 touches this past game. The most he had in a game before that this year was 12. We're at the end of Aaron Jones' career, and he's always kind of struggled to stay healthy. RJ Harvey behind Aaron Jones, running back 26. That's apparently much lower than consensus. I hope that they're right. The usage wasn't anything spectacular, and I think the Broncos are going to lean on the pass game a lot more. We'll see. Washington and then the Raiders. I don't necessarily love this schedule, and I don't know what the usage is going to be like. I hope that we get some explosive upside here from Harvey, but I don't want to bet on it. To me, he's in the same exact range as like Jones, who, if he's healthy, can give you some explosive plays. We don't really know. And then like Hampton, Amarian Hampton, Trey Benson, some of these guys who are coming back and have a lot of upside. But I don't know what the workload will be like. In Hampton's case, I don't know what the offense will be like. They looked awful last week. Anybody who's been riding the Kamani Vidal train knows like it has been all over the place. And so it might be the same with Hampton. And if both backs are getting involved, then good luck ever plugging Hampton in and feeling good about it. Benson is really interesting to me. Like I mentioned earlier, this schedule at the end of the year, if he's able to get back, find his footing, and is like the starting running back playing 50, 60, 70% of the snaps or whatever, he could give you some really big games in week 16 and 17 against the Falcons and Bengals. Kareem Hunt, talked about him on yesterday's episode quite a bit. He's playing really well. I think the Chiefs are in survival mode. They're going to trust their guy. David Montgomery. Seems like David Montgomery is mostly just a like contingent hold. Like if something were to happen to Gibbs, he becomes a massive upside play. But outside of that, it seems like things are trending away from him. I wouldn't be surprised if they go to him a lot in this week against the Giants, almost as like kind of a morale thing. But I don't know. Like down the stretch, they've got Packers. Dallas's defense could be better, and they're on the road against the Rams. The dome aspect of it is great, and I feel reasonably optimistic, I think, about the passing game and Gibbs. But Montgomery, I do wonder if some of these games, if the defenses they're playing gets play really well and the Lions underperform, if he's the one who's like the most likely to lose out on fantasy points. He's in the same range for me as Zach Charbonnet, Ramondre Stevenson, and then you got like Bashal Tutin. Hopefully will be worth more than those guys. I really hope that Ramondre isn't a fantasy relevant player, to be honest, at the end here, because I want it to be Travion, but it definitely could be Ramondre. He might have gotten dropped. I don't know what kind of leagues you guys play in, but the schedule is so nice for New England. Tyjae Spears and Alvin Kamara, I see basically the same, but Spears is way cheaper, might even be available in your leagues. They are PPR contributors. They're players who are going to give you a floor probably, like in PPR leagues, you're probably going to get 6 to 10 points from these guys. They can give you some big plays and touchdowns. They're pretty good players, especially I think Spears really has an explosive element to his game right now. I don't love this schedule though for Spears. Jeez. Seattle, Jacksonville, Cleveland, and then the Chiefs in week 16. If you make it to the fantasy playoffs, we've got the Niners and the Saints in week 15 and 17. Maybe Tony Pollard is phased out by then, and they're going with the youth movement. I love Tyjae Spears. He's so fun to watch. He is really a good player and has a fantasy-friendly game. I just don't know if he's ever going to be a meaningful contributor this year. And then we've arrived at like the running back stash range. For me, Jordan Mason is like at the top of this range. I just wanted to talk through some of these names real quick because I've sorted it out even further since we talked about it yesterday. So it's Mason and then Tyrone Tracy, I think, has been playing really well lately. Could get more opportunities for the Giants. Blake Corum is next. The Rams seem intent on continuing to get him the ball. And I think he'd play a huge role in one of the best offenses if anything were to happen to Kyren Williams. Kenneth Gainwell, we could be close to a Gainwell game. I don't know. Warren says he's fine, but we'll see. I mean, anytime that a running back is already dealing with an injury, I want to keep an eye on the other running back in that backfield. So I've got Gainwell behind Corum, and then Chris Rodriguez. We talked about him in the Washington backfield yesterday. Emmanuel Wilson, I have in between Rodriguez and Bill Krosky-Merritt. And Brian Robinson, I believe Dan would have him much higher based on our conversation yesterday. Tyler Algier has moved down for me a lot. We'll talk about Atlanta here in a moment. Keaton Mitchell, very excited for Keaton Mitchell. I think he's a great player to have on your bench if you can afford to use a bench spot that way. Sean Tucker, I think what we just saw with Tucker is something we could kind of see from Mitchell at some point if he got the opportunity. These are gash players. These are players who can get big explosive runs. Mitchell especially, just crazy speed. And then it's Kamani Vidal, Chuba Hubbard, Pacheco. These are players who are maybe kind of belong on waiver wires, in my opinion. Rashad White. Depends on the format. Depends on the depth of your league and everything. But like I have Devin Neal ahead of Rashad White. I think there's a real chance that Neal is a sneaky fantasy contributor down the stretch for PPR leagues. Really nice schedule for the Saints. So if Alvin Kamara gets dinged up at all and we see more Neal, he's a name to know. Isaiah Davis, Tank Bigsby, Ollie Gordon. I have all those guys above Tony Pollard, above Devin Singletary. I know that those veterans are playing right now, but to me, it's not worth much. Maybe if Tracy got hurt, Singletary would move up for sure, but I still don't know how much it would be worth. Whereas like Breece Hall got hurt, I think Isaiah Davis is actually pretty good and we get a lot of looks. That offensive line, honestly, Isaiah Davis and Singletary are really similar because like the Giants' offensive line has played pretty well too. Tank Bigsby, massive upside. I should probably move him ahead of Isaiah Davis. Ollie Gordon would, I think, have a really pretty big upside too if anything happened to Achane. But it would still probably be a split with him and Jalen Wright. Tank Bigsby is my favorite of this range. Okay, that's 55 running backs we just talked about. Let's take another break, and we'll come back and look at wide receiver and tight end real quick here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
That is a rookie mistake.
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
All right, wide receivers. I'm looking in the chat here. We've got some questions about Chris Godwin. Yeah, it's maybe about that time. I've moved him up in the rankings a little bit. I got some Michael Wilson questions, moved him up in the rankings for sure. We talked about Wilson on the Monday show with Adam Azer, if you missed that. All right, let's dig into these wide receiver rankings. It's the guys. It's the players you know at the top, of course. CeeDee Lamb is wide receiver 5 after the Jamar Chase, Sun God, Puka, Jason group. Not worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Eagles are tough. If you didn't watch that game, that was a crazy game. Jared Goff couldn't get through a normal 5-step drop back. Like he couldn't even get throws off hardly. It was really wild. What that upgraded Eagles front seven looked like. Pretty scary as a Chiefs fan who has some trauma around watching that front seven. Pretty scary stuff. So I think St. Brown will be fine. We'll talk about Detroit in a little more detail later. But CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 5, still ahead of George Pickens, but just barely. Pickens has outscored him for fantasy over the past month. I've got Lamb at 5, Rashee Rice at 6, Pickens at 7, Devontae Adams at 8. This range is really interesting. After Pickens, it could go a lot of different ways with these players. So I've got Adams and then Mecca Egbuka. I'm expecting a big finish this season for him. Jalen Waddle and Nico Collins. If you want to move Nico up, go for it. He's played really well lately. Dan had a really tough decision recently between Nico Collins and Devontae Adams, which one to send away in a trade, and he chose Nico. I think that is who I would choose too. But the Texans are playing for something here, and they could get into some back and forth games against the Bills, the Colts, the Chiefs, and they have some softer matchups. So maybe we see a strong finish for Nico. It's been really good lately. But maybe that's just Davis Mills related. I don't know. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But the volume has definitely been there lately in a way that it wasn't so much earlier in the season. And Mills has been willing to get rid of the ball quickly, whereas sometimes Stroud struggles to do that. So we'll see how this shapes up at the end of the year here. Stephon Diggs, have a wide receiver 12, just behind that group, ahead of Justin Jefferson, ahead of T. Higgins, some players here that I feel really good about, which I think will give you an idea of where I'm at with Diggs. If that surprises you, I encourage you to check out yesterday's show. Really, really compelling stuff on Diggs. Think it could be a huge finish for him. There's massive, massive upside there. Chris Olave is one of the players I'm the most high on relative to consensus. 9 spots out of consensus on Olave. 6 spots out of consensus on Zay Flowers. I've got them at 14 and 15, followed by T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey, Rome Odunze, Devontae Smith, and Michael Pittman Jr. And between Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce is Jameson Williams. I'm higher than consensus on all those players. 5 spots above consensus on Pittman, 3 spots above on JMO, and 9 spots above on Alec Pierce. You all, if you've been watching along this season, know that it's been a great season for Alec Pierce. We've outlined it starting back in this range, I think, basically, and it just keeps getting better. The touchdowns haven't even been there, but still, it's been a productive year for him. What I noticed when looking ahead for Indy is that basically every defense the rest of the way plays a ton of too high safety coverage. Like basically every single defense is top 8, top 10 in too high rate. Whereas like the Falcons use single high more than any defense. I think he's benefited from some matchups like that. If you look at his splits, he has the most targets, the most yards, even though he missed 2 games against single high of any Colt. He's really dominated whenever he gets single high safety coverage, which happens a lot. Even some of these teams that have the tendency of using more two-high safety might not do so much because you've got to worry about Jonathan Taylor, But a lot of defenses do just kind of play the way that they play. And so if we get more of these softer coverage schemes, I think that benefits the other indie pass catchers more. That being Michael Pittman, Tyler Warren, Josh Downs, and Jonathan Taylor, of course. So I wanted to bring that up. Even still, I'm much higher than consensus on Alec Pierce, it appears. I mean, there could be some bad games for sure. His average depth of target is extremely high. And so that means that there's a high range of outcomes. He could have games where he doesn't connect on the deep balls. But there's lots of upside too. I think there could be touchdowns on these downfield targets. And a lot of these games could get into high scoring back and forth games. Plays in a dome. Dan loves that. I think he's a pretty good player to have on your fantasy roster. He's kind of the ideal wide receiver 3, in my opinion, where if your wide receiver 3 has a bad game, that shouldn't be what kills you, Like, you should be able to live through a bad game for wide receiver 3. But if he has a really good game, that might be what takes you over the top, right? Ideally, if your team is built well. We'll talk about JMO more when we get to the Lions. This is where I landed on him. You could push him higher. I think Dan said he would take him above Odunze and Devontae Smith. I think that's totally fair. Here's where I have Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver 23, which is lower than consensus. What the hell? Like, how have I become the low guy on T-Mac? I don't really know. I don't know. My guess is just that we're reactionary. And so this game got people really excited. I don't know. He still has his bye week. Potentially a good matchup here against the Niners. They obviously just got torched by Michael Wilson. But then we've got tough defense here with the Rams. Week 17 against the Seahawks. Just don't know. Don't feel super confident in this offense. This is, I think, about where he belongs. I think he's kind of similar to Pierce in terms of wide range of outcomes here for him. I'm curious where your guys' head's at on this. I'm checking out the chat here real quick. What a year it's been for T-Mac and these rookies. Troy Franklin, here we go. So yesterday when I talked with Dan, I had Jordan Addison, I think, was the next player behind this Pittman, Pierce, JMO group. And that seemed weird to Dan, which is totally fair. And basically my sentiment was like, all these players after those Colts receivers, I got no clue what to expect from these guys. So I have moved Franklin and Sutton up. Why don't I'm just going to go ahead and give you the Denver notes now. The Broncos are 8th in pass rate over expectation. So this is per the Fantasy Points data suite. Based on the circumstances of each play, there's an expectation, and then how often they pass or didn't pass. It goes into this stat and accumulates over the whole year. They're 8th on the year. They have a positive pass rate over expectation in 5 straight games. And week 11 was the highest rate of the season for the Denver Broncos, which I think makes a ton of sense with J.K. Dobbins going down. And the run game did not function very well in week 11. We'll see what it looks like coming out of the bye, but I feel pretty good about these Broncos receivers. And I think that what we just saw from Nix was pretty encouraging. I don't want to trust it necessarily, but he gets soft spots here. I think Washington and Las Vegas Raiders are really easy teams to attack through the air. And so if he gets some momentum rolling here after that, he's got the Packers, the Jaguars, and the Chiefs, and then the Chargers in week 18. So it's like, if he gets momentum here, he's got 4 straight playoff teams to face off against. And I don't know. It seems like maybe Nix does have that it factor or whatever. Like, it seems like we've seen him rise his performance when the moment calls for it. And this is just anecdotal, of course, but like, what if he plays really well here down the stretch like we've seen him do at times, and they can't lean on the ground game as much, and so they do take to the air more? I think it could be really good for these receivers. And so if I don't feel good about any of these players really in this wide receiver 2-3 range, why not just take the Broncos? We've seen Sutton be really good. And right now, all the usage notes really point towards Franklin. So that's where I'm at with these guys. I think there's a lot of upside. Jordan Addison, I said to Dan, basically, I just think that we're at the absolute bottom right now in terms of what the outcome has been at the quarterback position. He's, I mean, literally like worse than Dylan Gabriel is where the accuracy charting has JJ McCarthy. And we rarely ever see a quarterback situation just be that bad for a prolonged period. So my guess is that something will change, whether that's just positive regression, natural improvement from McCarthy as he gets more reps, or them doing something different at quarterback. And I know it, just because we don't have the answer in front of us, it seems hard to believe that it would be better or whatever. Like the Brosmer guy, is he going to be better? Probably not. I don't know. I don't know how it will change, and maybe it won't, but it could. My guess is that it probably will, because I don't think it could continue to be this bad. It's been like one of the worst quarterback outputs that I've seen in the NFL in a while over this past, three or four games. And even still, you've got some usable games out of Addison. Last week could have been an even bigger game. He had an uncharacteristic drop, came down with a touchdown. And so as I look at this stretch run here, the last four matchups are really, really good. I just am fine keeping the light on for Addison. And if you feel that way about A.J. Brown, like, sure, move him ahead of Addison. That makes sense to me. He could have some big games here, but I feel, it sounds weird, but I feel better about the player when it comes to Addison than I do Brown. I mean, this is what we got when they like really built the whole offense around him and tried to get the squeaky wheel narrative off here in week 11, 49 yards. I don't know. So yeah, after Addison, I've got AJ Brown. I've got DK Metcalf. It's been really bad for Metcalf lately. But I think that's just kind of the roller coaster you ride with Metcalf. That's what I was trying to tell y'all early in the year, is like the role is going to have some ups with some downs. Like, he's a really talented player, and Rodgers can still spin it on the deep ball and these downfield perimeter shots. Obviously, Metcalf can catch and run. But if he's not scoring touchdowns and he's not breaking big plays, I just don't know if there's enough volume. He's topped out at 9 targets, and he's been at 7 or fewer targets in all but 2 games. If he has some good games on the stretch, it wouldn't surprise me, though. He's got the Bears still. He's got the Bills, the Dolphins. Could be better days ahead for Metcalf, but I wouldn't want him on my roster. That's crazy. Like, we're not even outside the top 30 receiver, and I'm just like, straight up, I wouldn't want this guy on my roster. Good luck. Here's the rest of this range. We talked about a lot of these players yesterday, so I'm gonna check the chat real quick and see if there's anybody that stands out to me that I should highlight. Kayshon Boutte, we did not talk about. I moved him up to wide receiver 40. But, I mean, he could outproduce anyone that we just talked about. That wouldn't surprise me at all. He's honestly played really well when given opportunities this year. We know that the Patriots' schedule is cake. We've talked about that extensively. And the quarterback play is great, So why couldn't Kayshon Boutte just be the league winner that we're saying Steph Diggs will be, or Travion will be? What if the touchdowns go to him? He's a really cheap way to get exposure to this high upside Patriots offense. I think he's going to be back this week. Jacoby Myers, we'll get to the usage notes on the Jaguars. Moved him up to wide receiver 41. So these guys are, if you're listening on audio, these guys, Boutte and Myers, are ahead of Xavier Worthy, ahead of Deebo Samuel, ahead of Darnell Mooney, and they're behind Quentin Johnston, Luther Burden, Tez Johnson, Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Watson, Ricky Pearsall, and Juwan Jennings. I'm way lower than consensus on the Niners receivers, which is not where I mean to be. I just don't know if either one of them can be trusted. I think it's going to go through Kittle and CMC, and I don't feel confident enough in either to choose one, and they still have their bye week. But it could be really good. So I'm fine moving them up to this, low end wide receiver 2 range where I put the Denver receivers. They're really similar to me. Like I said, this whole range is pretty similar. So don't see somebody much higher than somebody else and overreact to that. If you have conviction on a player in this range, absolutely they could be up here with the Troy Franklins and DK Metcalfs of the world. Tez Johnson seems high with guys coming back on Tampa Bay from the chat here. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know when they will be back. And I think that Tez is somebody who can score points for us right now. Like, maybe not against the Rams, but after that, Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, I don't know if those guys are going to be back by that point. I really don't think Evans will be. And if Godwin is, I don't know what kind of role he'll be playing. So I think Tez is a pretty good player to have on your roster. If you need somebody that you can plug in, he might be somebody who really helps you get through bye weeks in week 14. Whatever you need. I think he's just an interesting player who might help you now. So that's why he's in this range. But you're right. At the end of the year, maybe he won't be playing a relevant role. But I honestly don't really know if any of these players are going to be relevant at the end of the year. Who do I think will have a better week this week? Juwan Jennings or Emmanuel Wilson? So I'm going to give flex rankings on Friday for week 12 on the Friday newsletter. I also do start sit with Adam Azer and Heath Cummings on Sunday morning each week. If you go to the FFT stream, that starts an hour before kickoff. And we do a lot of flex questions and stuff like that to help you guys sort out your lineups and your start sit decisions. All right. Xavier Worthy has dropped quite a bit. It's not looking great. It's the same frustrating stuff. Him and Mahomes just, for whatever reason, not seeming to be on the same page. Debo, I've got way lower than consensus. I don't love the schedule, and I don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation, but it could be better than this for sure. Like, maybe this is too low, but he's not usable basically the next 2 weeks with a bye week and then the Broncos. Maybe beyond that, you get something from Debo Samuel. Here's where I put Jayden Higgins, Michael Wilson. They're at wide receiver 47 and 48, ahead of Parker Washington, Trey Tucker, Jalen Coker, Pat Bryant, who we talked about earlier, Adonai Mitchell I've got in this range. So now we're getting into really speculative players. It's Jalen Knoll. I think he's a great stash if you have the space for wide receiver stash, which would be like low on my priority list. If I had like 4 bench spots available or something, like maybe the 4th one would go to a wide receiver upside stash like Adonai Mitchell, Jalen Knoll, Garrett Wilson. Hopefully he gets back and plays, but I doubt it. Josh Downs in this range. Like I said earlier, it could be better for some of these underneath options, but I don't know if you're ever going to be able to trust Josh Downs in your lineup. It's kind of where I'm at with Jaden Reed too. I know he's supposed to be back this week. I hope he is. I hope he comes back and plays well. Like Josh Downs, he's been one of the best players on a per opportunity basis. Who's my GOAT Pokemon? Arcanine is my favorite Pokemon. Such a good boy. I know that's maybe a generic pick or whatever, but yeah, we can hit me up in the comments. We'll have a more nuanced conversation if you want that. So yeah, wide receiver 57, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs in this range, DJ Moore, Malik Washington for Miami. Malik Washington's kind of like Tez Johnson, but I don't know if he has as much upside because he never gets thrown the ball down the field. But like maybe you can play him in week 13 against the Saints. Maybe you can play him week 14 against the Jets. Got the Bengals in week 16. Yeah, this is just a weird range. Jerry Jeudy. I guess you can use him. I don't know. I got no clue what to expect from their quarterback situation here. Darius Slayton, if he gets back in, maybe you can use him. Mac Hollins, it seems like right now you can use him. Yeah, maybe Chris Godwin moves up. Maybe Drake London needs to be much higher than this, but I got no clue what to make of him. I don't know if he's going to play again this year. Maybe he will. Maybe it's just a 1 or 2 week thing, hopefully. And we've arrived at Matthew Golden, wide receiver 70, just ahead of Kyle Williams, ahead of Isaac Tesla and Nyla Kyle Manor, but behind Jack Besh and Tamir DK and Jalen Lane. Just wanted to make that important distinction for anybody who's hanging on for the Matthew Golden update. Sorry if that didn't go well for you. If you were counting on Matthew Golden, take that up with Dad. Okay, tight end, Trey McBride, league winner if I've ever seen one. George Kittle, I've got next. Then Tyler Warren at tight end 3. And Brock Bowers at tight end 4. Really, really nervous about this schedule, this string of pass rushes that the Raiders have to deal with. I mean, the worst pass rush is the Chargers. It's I don't know. Good luck. If you make it to week 17, he gets the Giants, and maybe your faith will be rewarded. I'm hoping that that's me, but I'm pretty sure that my Bowers teams are screwed. Jake Ferguson at tight end 5. Ronnie Gadsden at tight end 6. Led off yesterday's episode with Gadsden. Interesting discussion around Gadsden. I mean, why not Gadsden over Bowers? Could be. Wouldn't surprise me at all if he outscores him from week 13 on. He's got the bye week this week. Travis Kelce, tight end 7. I see him and Juwan Johnson pretty similarly, but there's, of course, much more touchdown upside with Travis Kelce. Dallas Goedert is kind of like Jake Ferguson at this point, but probably not quite as much base target floor, but kind of just like a touchdown or bust play is how I see him. But there is a little more yardage upside, I think, with him, although we've really only seen that once, but I think it's mostly just product of the offense. Dalton Kincaid could give you some upside for sure. He's played really, really well this year. I think there are some matchups that he could exploit down the stretch. I'm really intrigued how this stretch will go here. They've got the Patriots in week 15, so that's the start of the fantasy playoffs. That could be a game where they fall behind and have to pass more. The Eagles in week 17, obviously not a good matchup, but a game where they could have to pass more. And that's basically what I'm looking for with Kincaid. Not so much matchup. Here's the bottom range of the tight end position. Still looking for an update on Tyler Higbee. Got a chat message that says, I think you're downplaying the Chargers O-line struggles too much. It's a gigantic risk for Gadsden. Sure, yeah. Who do you think is not a risk among these players? It's Travis Kelce, Goddard, Juwan Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta on the IR, Colson Loveland, Harold Fannin Jr., rookies that are playing about 60-70% of the snaps on mid to bad passing offenses. Who's not a risk? Kelce, I guess. This is the second safest player among the players I just named, and he's Juwan Johnson, and he's on the Saints. They're all risks. Tight end is awful. It always is. I mean, there's moments in time where it looks all right. And the Chargers offensive line is a problem for sure, but there's a lot of the offensive lines around the league are kind of losing to the defensive lines. If you haven't noticed that, like I said, the Detroit Lions got their freaking butts kicked last week, and that's happening a lot. To me, give me this guy. Give me the guy who has upside, can make plays with the ball in his hands, can make plays down the field, can make plays in the red zone. Give me the guy attached to Justin Herbert over all these other guys. Yeah, it's a valid point. I don't mean to downplay what you're saying, but I just want to. That's why. I want upside. If I'm going for anything at tight end, I want upside. If you're content with just going with like Dalton Schultz or whatever, like that's the way to go. You know, maybe you feel a little bit safer tucking yourself in at night, knowing that Schultz gives you 50 yards. He's been doing it. He's been doing it lately. Anyway, Tyler Higbee. I'm really curious what might happen with Terrence Ferguson here because they've got some matchups where the Rams could put a bunch of points up down the stretch. Matthew Stafford probably looking like a near favorite to win MVP. And Ferguson is kind of the secret weapon for McVay. I think he's going to keep getting him more and more involved, if I had to guess. I like that they've been getting him a little bit more involved as a blocker and stuff lately, so maybe that opens up a path to him playing a full-time role. This guy's just a massive athlete. I mean, if you're curious, you can like search Terrence Ferguson from my name here on Twitter and like this, and you'll find a bunch of Terrence Ferguson propaganda. He's really, really cool. So I'm going to keep bringing him up just because I think it's worth knowing that there's like, I just talked about how weird and gross tight end is. Where else are you finding upside like this? One of the best offenses in the whole league and a really explosive player. And like two receivers who have dealt with injuries this year. Puka Nacua has a long history of injuries. Devontae Adams is really getting up there in years. Like there's a lot of paths for Ferguson, like ending up being really, really fantasy relevant. And if not, you just drop him, like it's just a bench stash, just like a running back or something. But it could make a huge difference for you if you're like looking for something at tight end. Yeah. Nothing. Oh, Brenton Strange. I'll highlight again. Brenton Strange is a really good player to know. I think down the stretch could be like a weekly top 8 type of tight end if he gets back and his health allows it. Jaguars offense has been pretty good. And shoot, I'll highlight Gunnar Helm. Probably not relevant for this year, but maybe they're getting him more and more involved. Season high playing time coming out of the Week 10 bye. And I saw a crazy tweet. It was PFF grades. Take that for what it's worth. For the tight end rookies, and Colson Loveland was number 1, by the way, above Tyler Warren. And Gunnar Helm was number 3, like right behind him. That's, ahead of Aronde Gadsden. That's pretty impressive, right? This guy, I really, really like Gunnar Helm. He hasn't had more than 36 yards in a game, but he is playing for the Tennessee Titans in a part-time role, so I'm not going to hold that against him. He's a really good and interesting player. Same thing. If you want to watch Gunnar Helm propaganda, do yourself a favor and get you some Gunnar Helm in your life. He's a great player to know for deeper leagues, for dynasty leagues. All right, we're 1 hour in. We've arrived at the Gunnar Helm portion of the show, which I think is a good sign that it's time to take a break. So I'm going to roll some ads and use the restroom real quick, and I'll get back. We'll do team by team.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates
That is a rookie mistake.
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, can you handle it? Can you handle it? The crowd here feels electric. Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons.
It's big time!
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown!
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year!
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals!
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Hey, we're back. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. Please, if you have not yet, give us a like, give us a comment, do all the things. Shoot, I've got some reviews from Apple that I wanted to shout out. Really appreciate anybody who takes the time to do that. That helps us grow the show. If you leave reviews on Apple or Spotify, that really means a lot. It does go a long way. It adds up, and it's great to hear from you. So if you've got questions, you can leave those there. If you've got any comments on ways you think the show could be better, you can leave that there as well. Whatever you got, would love to hear from you. Okay. Wow. This one's just for Dan. He's going to love this. Best fantasy deep dive in 20 of 25. Everything here is just really, really nice. And then they say, sitting at 18-2 in my dynasty league with a wagon. That's a Dan phrase. Shout out, Dan. Thanks in no small part to you guys. So shout out TJ Marksman. 18-2. That is a wagon. All right. Got an interesting trade one here I wanted to bring up. Got a diehard fan of the show. This is Jake Tank. Watched every bit of content the channel makes. Thank you. FFT crushing the content game this year for sure. So 7-3. Got a great roster built by the FFT crew. At running back, we've got RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson. This does sound like a Beyond the Box Score team. Javonte Williams, Quinshawn Judkins, Rico Dowdle, Jordan Mason, and Zach Charbonnet. At wide receiver, got Rashee Rice, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, and Cortland Sutton. George Kittle at tight end, Jackson Dart, and Joe Flacco at quarterback. That's a pretty good team. The trade is not on here. That's crazy. What am I missing? That's so funny. Am I missing something? I think it's a trade for CMC, but I don't even see what it is. Well, that was not a successful listener review portion. But here's what I can give you, since I've got my photos up and I've got an interesting one here. Shout out Greg Branos, who runs the Coach Speak Index. Man, that's too funny. You really should check out the Coach Speak Index if you don't know what I'm talking about. He's got a Discord. It's I think only $10 a month, and he does really, really great work. Chat says Jacob got played. For real, I'm so confused. There's like a long comment with the whole team context, and there's no trade question. Like he references the trade, but there's nothing listed. Anyway, shout out Greg and the Coach Speak Index. And this is his quote from Liam Cohen on Bashal Tootin. This is what you guys are really here for. I thought Bashal Tootin ran hard. He ran downhill. Yes, that's what he does. That's what we've seen all year long. A couple of third down runs, got us vertical. He did a really nice job. Obviously, so did Travis Etienne and LaQuint Allen, but Toot has been practicing better and better. Shout out Tootin. We got a Tootin celebration from Toot in this past week. If you didn't see that, loved that. Been practicing better and better. As much as we can continue to get him involved, the better our offense is. You know, that's a full agree from me, Liam. I sure hope the Toot can come back strong here, come on healthy at the end of the year, because it could be really fun. All right, that was a fun little comic relief portion of the show. Let's dig in here with a team by team. Okay. So the Arizona Cardinals running back situation we've talked about. It is interesting right now. It, I think, is going to be a lot of Trey Benson here at the end of the year. Amari DeMarcado got banged up in this one, so we saw more Michael Carter. Michael Carter actually outsnapped Bam Knight this past week, but I think that was mostly due to this. You know, like they fell behind early, way behind, and so we saw 50% route rate to Carter. At times we've seen Benson have that role, but since he's gone down, it's been DeMarcado, and then even when James Conner went down, it was Benson playing more of the early down role with the third down stuff going to DeMarcado. I feel like Benson could play all three downs at some point. If DeMarcado is not able to play, like, or maybe it'll be like Bam gets in there as just a change of pace back and Benson plays like 60% of the snaps or something, but like it's not like he comes off the field situationally on passing downs. So that's just interesting to me because I feel like they intentionally went away from Michael Carter and they played him this week by necessity, which points to the fact that they don't really want Bam in that role, but we have seen that they're content with Benson in that role. So I wonder if when Benson's back, they're just like, okay, we're done with Carter. We didn't really want him on the field, but we had to have him out there because we think he's better, whatever, knows the playbook better, knows the running back routes better, or is a better pass blocker than Bam, whatever the reason was. I wonder if we get to like Benson and Bam as the two primary backs, and Bam has been a little banged up too. If we just see a ton of Benson down the stretch, he's really an interesting player, like one of the more interesting players to me in fantasy from this point on, because I think he's a really explosive player and he could have a really fantasy friendly role, and the schedule shapes up pretty nicely. The Falcons, 86% snaps to Bijan Robinson. We saw him get all the goal line stuff after, Tyler Algier was really involved in that way the week before. They went to Bijan early around the goal line in this game. Only 3 carries for Algier, did score another touchdown. Tyler Algier, I said, was one of the players I moved down the most. That's because I think that the Falcons are going to be playing behind a lot, and he's one of the most game script sensitive running backs in the NFL. 27% of the Falcons' offensive touches have gone to Algier when they are playing with a lead. 27% is a really high number for a backup running back. When trailing, that gets cut in half, 13%. For comparison, Bijan is like 43% when playing with a lead and 38% when trailing. So I do not know if we're going to be able to trust Algier. I think they're like the team would like to lean on the ground game, and that will probably involve Algier. He'll probably be out there a lot early on in the games. But if you need touchdowns, I just don't know if he's getting you there. I think Bijan's the only thing you can trust from this offense. And maybe the pass catchers get you some upside. Maybe Pitts is somebody who ends up being kind of trustworthy. We did see earlier this year, week 8, it was Kirk Cousins at quarterback and Drake London was out. We've actually seen twice over the past 2 years this set of circumstances that we're about to have, which is Cousins at quarterback and Drake London out. And last year it was Mooney who had a big game. This year it was Kyle Pitts, 9 targets, caught all 9 of them, was used in pre-snap motion a lot of short catch and run stuff for Pitts. So my guess is that they'll emphasize him that way. He'll be your second most likely player to matter among the Falcons players. The schedule could give them a chance, but the film has been really rough when I've watched Kirk Cousins this year. Baltimore Ravens, you've noticed me talking about Keaton Mitchell a lot lately. I'll shout out our guy Ben Gretsch on that. And let's shout out JJ Zachariason too. Late round QB. Both those guys just do fantastic work. If you don't know who I'm talking about, you've got to check them out. Here we go. So I was reading Ben Gretsch's Substack that he writes, and it's really, really good if you like to read. And I found this stat from JJ, which was that Keaton Mitchell hit 20 miles per hour on 3 of his 15 runs so far this year, which is just a crazy, crazy stat and speaks to what Mitchell can bring. They've been intentional in like getting him more and more involved lately. If you were around this preseason, you know that Keaton Mitchell looked amazing, and it was really cool to see him moving so well so soon as he makes his recovery from ACL. So he's somebody I've got my eye on with Justice Hill banged up. If Henry were to get banged up at all, I think Keaton Mitchell could be a really fun and explosive type of player who might help us in fantasy. But yeah, this week it was 18 rushes to Henry, 6 to Mitchell. So he's not like cutting into the role in any significant way. And he's not even like playing the Justice Hill role where he's like the designated passing down guy, like Rasheen Ali played a little bit too. So I think he's just kind of a change of pace guy for now, but just keep an eye on him. If you've got a deep league and you can stash him, I think he's worth stashing. Obviously, great offense and a player who can catch the ball and who can make big plays. Buffalo Bills. I've got a similar type of stat here for James Cook to Algier. He's very sensitive to game scripts. Obviously not to the extent that Algier is. He's out there a lot more, but 46% of the team's touches when leading, 32% of the team's touches when trailing. Week 15 and 17 stand out to me in this regard because the Bills have the Patriots and the Eagles. And so either one of those games, they could be playing from behind. Got somebody in the chat tell me that Pearsall's ranking is blasphemous and that just going off about it. Yeah, I said you can have Ricky Pearsall much higher. Check out yesterday's show if you want to hear us talk about Ricky Pearsall. We're actually really excited for Ricky Pearsall. But yeah, James Cook, 16 out of 17 rush attempts this past week. Ty Johnson did get in and score the long receiving touchdown, but it was 68% of the snaps to Cook in a game that the Bills mostly controlled throughout. So it's good to see him back. I know it's been kind of rocky for Cook over the past. He had some really, really good games, but it just after that really strong stretch of the season, there have been some of these down games that really sink your week. And maybe that's what we get in weeks 15 and 17. But overall, like, I think we know exactly where we're at with James Cook. Please don't make me use Kyle Pitts in the chat. I would never sign you up for that. But if you want to, I don't know what else you're going to do at tight end, really. I don't feel good about it. Carolina Panthers, another game script sensitive running back here, Enrico Dowdle. But this was a better game for the Panthers. We saw a ton of Dowdle, 83% snap rate for Dowdle, 19 of 24 running back touch or rushes. It wasn't a great game from an efficiency standpoint. You love to see 7 targets to Dowdle. I think that's probably an outlier. It was just a massive game overall. Tons of plays, tons of passing attempts for the offense. So that inflates things a little bit here. But yeah, on Dowdle, he has 47% of the touches when leading, which is actually just above James Cook, and 31% of the touches when trailing, which is just below James Cook. So super, super sensitive to game script. How confident do you feel in these Panthers? Are they going to be able to play with leads to close out the year here? I'm not so sure. Maybe they've got their work cut out for them if they're going to do so. They've got the Niners and the Rams and then the bye. Maybe against the Saints in week 15, but after that, it's the Bucs and the Seahawks. Rico's going to have to pull out some more of these heroics. We've seen the efficiency drop off a little bit these past 2 weeks. It could be random variance, just 1 week sample size things, or it could be that he's wearing down. We'll see. Alrighty. Any Shavers hype? Any Shavers hype for us? The chat's asking. You guys are sick. Tyrell Shavers. Yeah, I mean, the offense looked good. They moved on from, they experimented with, what does it look like without Keon Coleman out here? And Shavers made some good plays. I don't have any Shavers hype for you, but if it keeps going, I will. Chicago Bears. I do have lots of Chicago Bears running back hype. Check out yesterday's episode if you haven't done that. I really think that Monangai has a strong chance of being a fantasy relevant player for us down the stretch. Since DeAndre Swift has been back, it has been Swift taking the lead in both these games. 21 rushes for Swift in week 11 to 12 for Monangai. Monangai got the goal line touchdown, but only 37% of the snaps, only a 25% route rate for Monangai. But still, 33 runs, 34 if you count Travis Hunter, 34 runs for the running back position here. And that's what has me intrigued about the Bears, is that they've been really effective and efficient running the ball. It wasn't so much efficient this game, but I think there will be some games where this 34 rushes could be 150, 170 yards, So I've got both these Bears running backs above consensus for that reason. And if either one of them goes down, it could be huge for the other. I mentioned the usage for Chase Brown is out of control right now. 83% snap rate. His expected fantasy point number over the past 2 games is 24 expected fantasy points per game. 8 targets in this one, 83% of the routes. This is all just massive, massive numbers for a fantasy running back. If Samaje Perine gets back in, maybe that changes. But for now, he's locked in as a top 12 running back. Taj Brooks, 11% of the snaps, 1 carry. You guys know, probably, some of you know, that I really like Taj Brooks, but hasn't been able to get on the field, which probably is noteworthy if I were speculating. They went from having a clearly defined role for the second running back to just being like, actually, we're not doing that. We're just going to give it all to our running back 1, which is maybe not a good note for Brooks. But again, sometimes it takes time for these rookies to figure out what their professional life looks like. Cleveland Browns, 59% snap rate for Quinshon Judkins, 17 of 19 running back rushes. This is a pretty competitive game. If they can stay competitive, then Judkins has a chance to get a lot of touches. But even in this game, 19 opportunities and 5.9 PPR points is what you got from Quinshon Judkins. He's, of course, another one of these really game script sensitive guys. Probably the most game script sensitive running back. 56% of the Browns' offensive touches when playing with a lead. That's by far the highest in the NFL. Breece Hall is the next highest at 49%. So it's like Breece, Ashton Genty, Rico Dowdle. Those are the most game script running backs, really. Judkins. And then you've got like James Cook and players like that too. 39% of the touches for Judkins when not playing with the lead, when trailing. So Next, I mean, they've got the Raiders, they've got the Niners, maybe even a game they could be competitive in with the way the Niners defense is playing. They've got the Titans after that. So maybe some Junkins weeks that you can use, but this is why Dan's been so low on Junkins. And I've been slowly moving him down the ranks too. Got him down at running back 22 here. Rest of season is where Junkins is at. Jerome Ford still playing at a Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson, I really like, but only 11% of the snaps in this game, 32% of the snaps for Jerome Ford. Rocket Sanders, my guy. Nothing doing. We'll see. We'll see what happens at the end of the year here. Dallas Cowboys, nothing doing really. It's like pretty much all Javonte. Malik Davis is ahead of Jadon Blue, it seems like. Maybe Fomafa will get in, but I haven't heard anything on that. So it's just basically all Javonte as much as he can handle. This is a season high in touches for Javonte. I think he's still played really well as the year has gone on. I was really curious how he would hold up because before this year, Javonte had never had a season, even dating back to college, where he had more than 55% of the snaps in a season. This year, we regularly see him push up into the 70, 80% range. So will his body be able to handle it? Will he wear down? They've kind of capped him at 20 rushes in a game, but he got up to 23 touches in this game. His efficiency hasn't really fallen off in a big way other than like touchdowns. Like he's given us some really strong underlying rushing numbers. So shout out to Javonte. I feel pretty good if I've got Javonte rest of season. I'm not worrying about the recent performances. Denver Broncos backfield, 61% snap rate for RJ Harvey. That's pretty great. He got the start. He was out there even on like some third downs and stuff early in the game. He was out there pretty much just as the starting running back. 13% of the snaps to Tyler Bidet, 13% of the snaps to Jaleel McLaughlin. McLaughlin did get 6 carries to 11 for Harvey. They gave him some short yardage work, which is interesting because he's not a big guy. And so maybe that says something about Harvey. We'll see what happens coming out of the bye. It was McLaughlin who scored the goal line touchdown. 46% route rate for Harvey is pretty good. 3 targets. I think we could see his receiving role grow in the second half of the season here, coming out of the bye. But yeah, I mean, eight fantasy points. I doubt he was very high in expected fantasy points. I don't know. I'm really surprised that consensus has him as a top 20 running back, honestly. RJ Harvey was running back 29 in expected fantasy points in week 11, just behind Chris Rodriguez, who does not, really have a fantasy friendly role. Rodriguez has mostly gotten there through efficiency. So that's where Harvey was. It wasn't a great role. Maybe it'll be better. The Detroit Lions, 72% snap rate for Jahmyr Gibbs, 20 points for Jahmyr Gibbs, only 5 for Montgomery, 12 of 18 running back rushes went to Gibbs, 69% route rate for Gibbs with 8 targets and 107 receiving yards. You love all of that. He is one of the most explosive, dynamic, awesome football players we have. So thank you, Dan Campbell. Green Bay, it was pretty much all Emmanuel Wilson. Once Josh Jacobs went down, I think it was like 90% Emmanuel Wilson. Chris Brooks gets in there for passing downs, but 62% route rate for Wilson on the game, up around 70, I think it was like 75% once Jacobs went down. So that's really good stuff. I don't think Jacobs is going to play this week. We'll see beyond that. Wilson is a decent pickup. I think he's played pretty well this year. He's played well in the past too. Over the last couple of years, he has one of the highest success rates at running back. So he's earned this. No idea when we're going to get Marshawn Lloyd back. Here's the Houston Texans usage. 66% to Woody Marks. Again, the starting running back. Only 25% snap rate to Nick Chubb. This is what bothers me about the Texans and Woody Marks. 36% route rate, only 1 target. I don't understand. It's so strange because he was such a prolific receiver in college, and they just haven't tapped into that aspect of his skill set, which is so weird. They traded up to get him, and the team has often been playing from behind. It's just really weird to me that they haven't used him more, especially because they don't really have a short passing game going. It's like mostly down the field, and they're trying to get the ball out quicker lately. I don't know. it makes so much sense to me, like, that he would get more targets as part of the function of this offense, but it's just not happened. And so until it does, like, he is pretty limited. 18 rushes for 44 yards in this game, it's not a good offensive line and a middle of the pack offense overall. So his fantasy value is mostly just predicated on like potentially getting a lot of touches because the defense is so good that it keeps people off the field and gets the ball back to the Texans. But it's a lot of ineffective touches is what it's been lately. He looks really good though. His film has looked really good. I've been really like pleasantly surprised by what he marks, like about as much as any player at any position. I didn't have super high expectations for him as like a rushing talent. The Colts were on bye in week 11, but week 10, I just want to point out again that it is Amir Abdullah and Tyler Goodson who are the running backs. They're active behind Jonathan Taylor, but I mean, obviously it's all Jonathan Taylor, 91% of the snaps. Maybe they would get the rookie more involved if JT went down. Dan is super, super high on DJ Giddens. I loved DJ Giddens' film as well. Out of K-State, thought he had some like Tyrone Tracy kind of potential to create gash plays. And with the way that this line is blocking things out, they've got some really athletic linemen who can get out in space. And I think that could all set up really well for Giddens. But I also just don't know if he would even get in there if JT went down. You don't want to overreact to inactives, if the other guys are better on special teams, better on passing downs, whatever, like that could be the reason where it's like, well, we know we have JT. We don't really need our second best runner to even be active, like there's no need for it. We just feed JT. The Jaguars, it was a Tootin takeover until it wasn't, but Travis Etienne started the first two drives, was getting the majority of the work on those drives, but Tootin was mixing in. And at the time of the injury, Tootin had 15 out of the past 25 running back runs. So 15 carries for him, 10 to Etienne. And he was leading them down to the goal line, and then he got hurt. Ended up with a 32% snap rate, 15 carries for 74 yards and a touchdown. These are all the best that he's had this year, even with him missing the end of the game. 51% snap rate for Etienne. He did take the bulk of the work, but I think it's interesting. We got a little bit of work on the ground for LeQuint Allen. He's mostly just been a passing downs option for them, but it's cool that they're willing to trust him with some running back runs. I really like LeQuint Allen. He's not like a high upside guy. He's not a super explosive athlete, really. But he is a dog, and he will get in there and mix it up. He can be a pass catcher. He can give you some plays if need be. Speaking of giving you plays if need be, the Chiefs, by necessity, are going all Kareem Hunt, 82% snap rate. This is one of the highest numbers we've seen so far. All the running back rushes, no Brashard Smith. They get Elijah Mitchell out there sometimes, but it's just like whenever he's out there, it's so clear that they're going to pass. Kareem, at least, nobody's respecting it, but like Kareem at least poses some threat that he might get the ball. He's a decent running back for fantasy right now. When Pacheco comes back, it'll cut into his role a little bit, I think. But let's review here. Kansas City Chiefs, when Pacheco was playing, let's look at weeks 5 through 7. It was much, much more Pacheco, but still, I believe Kareem was getting touchdowns, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, 2 touchdowns to Pacheco's 1 during this stretch. 64% of the snaps Pacheco during these 3 games, with Kareem getting 17 rushes. Brashard Smith has a lot of rushes here because of one of the games was a blowout. But during this stretch, Pacheco outscored Kareem Hunt by 2 PPR points, even though his snap rate was much higher. And if I had to guess, we're not just going back to the 64% snap rate right off the bat for Pacheco. We'll see. Last year we saw Pacheco come back and not be himself. We'll see where he's at with his health. It might be a ramp up for him, I guess is what I'm saying. The Raiders, this is just depressing. 8 running back runs for 13 yards. 66% route rate is decent for Genty, but he's not even out there all the time. 8 targets is good. They're kind of force feeding him, but it's just kind of predictable. I think he got to just basically throw out everything for the Raiders from this year, to be honest, especially as it pertains to Genty. I'm not reacting to it in any way. I think we've seen enough of him looking really good in isolation on a few plays that it's just like, okay, we know who this guy is. He can do it against pros, but I'm not judging him for. It's kind of like Bowers last year, how Brock Bowers had like 4 avoided tackles all year, and it's just like the defense knows exactly where it's going and what it's going to be, and he's getting swarmed every play. Kamani Vidal, I mean, here's another one where you just don't want to react. Vidal got banged up, 51% of snaps, so we're just moving on from the Chargers. This portion of the season gets kind of depressing. There might be life for the Chargers. We'll see what it looks like in a week here, coming out of the bye. Achane, this is not depressing. Man, this guy's awesome. 165 scrimmage yards on 26 touches. It's so cool what a player he's developed into, where he can be out there all the time in all situations. 78% route rate's extremely high. They do spell him at times. They do bring Ollie Gordon in for short yardage situations. So let's go yard. Okay, to goal, distance to goal. Let's go distance to gain. Okay, sorry. From inside the 10-yard line, we've got 54% snap rate for Gordon, 62% for Achane in this game, 4 rushes for each of them from inside the 10. I thought that to first. There we go. Distance to first. So this is just anytime they needed 3 or fewer yards to gain a first down. And now True Media decides it forgot how to search it. Okay. Let me see if, yeah, that's broken. Let me see if I've got any other notes for you here that we missed. Did we talk about the Jaguars yet? Yes, we did. So the Jaguars, I think we're going to see go a lot more run heavy. The note I have on the Jaguars is that they're 5th in pass rate over expectation before their week 8 bye, and they had a positive rate in 6 out of those 7 games, and pass rate over expectation since the bye, 25th in pass rate over expectation with a negative rate in 2 of 3 games. Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr. out of the picture. Maybe BTJ's back. I don't know if that'll change things in a significant way. And the running backs are playing really well. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Maybe they'll shift more to a run-heavy team. So I got True Media to give me what I want here. This is when the Dolphins in Week 11 needed 3 or fewer yards to gain a first down. 4 of those rushes went to Achane. 3 of them went to Gordon. Achane was on the field for 64% of those plays. So they bring Gordon in sometimes, but like it's not, they are willing to trust Achane in these situations and do it still sometimes, even though I think Gordon's been better in these situations, honestly, even though it's more predictable that he's going to get the ball. So I just wanted to point that out. 39% snap rate for Gordon. Jalen Wright barely played. The week before that, I think it was a little bit more Wright, but also Gordon was kind of dealing with some stuff. I've got some PROE, pass rate over expectation notes on the Raiders too. The Raiders are they've just abandoned the run. Obviously, you saw that in this game, but since the bye week, only the Chiefs have a higher pass rate over expectation than the Raiders. The Chiefs' rate has been extremely high all year. The Chiefs and the Cardinals are the only teams that have pass rate over expectation that's been positive every single game. The Dolphins have gone a lot more run heavy on while we're here talking about the running backs. 28th in pass rate over expectation over the past month. It's been extremely negative, extremely run heavy, 31 running back runs in this game over the past 2 weeks. So to me, like Gordon is kind of like Monangai or Jordan Mason, who we talked about yesterday, where the schedule is nice and he maybe will give you flex appeal. He gave you 10.5 PPR points this week. Probably not, but maybe in some of these good spots. And if something were to happen to Achane, then could be huge. Minnesota Vikings. Mostly Aaron Jones. Bell cow season, yeah. 17% snap rate for Mason. Jordan Mason, 6 of 22 running back runs for Jordan Mason. He did score a touchdown. Let's look at the red zone snaps here. 80% Aaron Jones, 20% Jordan Mason. He scored a 16-yard touchdown from in the red zone. But it's not like he had more work in that range. He just had a nice run. New England Patriots are 5th in pass rate over expectation. They have a positive pass rate over expectation in 7 straight games after opening the season with a negative rate in 2 of 4 games. I think that it makes sense that this team will focus on the pass. That's obviously what's been working the best. I think that they want to unlock the run game, and the Travion has helped that. And we might see them go more back to more run-heavy games with both Travion and Ramondre Stevenson healthy. But Drake May is just playing so well. And they've got, running backs who they trust in pass protection, Ramondre, potentially Travion, that could be part of his skill set. We've definitely seen that. And then they also have a potentially dangerous weapon here in Henderson as a pass catcher. 81% route rate is really high. It's very rare that you see a running back trusted with that high of a route rate. So to me, I think just as easily we could see this really positive pass rate over expectation lately stick. Henderson is that kind of a running back, and they've got a variety of receivers and tight ends that they can mix in there and attack defenses with different types of skill sets. And Drake May is just freaking balling. So that is something it's interesting to me. Like I mentioned, Kayshon Boutte. I think there's a lot of these pieces that could be really relevant down the stretch. In this game, 90% snap rate for Henderson. Dearness Johnson played behind him. It wasn't Terrell Jennings. Jennings was back. I believe he was active in this game. He shouldn't play. 19 of 22 running back rushes for Hendo. I'm going to look at the past 2 weeks here in the red zone. Because I think I heard Dave Richards say that it was like almost a foregone conclusion that Ramondre would get that red zone work. And I don't know if that's the case. Henderson has 10 of 11 running back rushes from in the red zone over the past couple of weeks, 86% snap rate in the red zone. So no change to his role. Let's look at Ramondre when they've been together, if it's been like very clearly Ramondre or not. We're going to go, we'll just go with these four games, week 5 through 8. Weeks 5 through 8, it was 11 red zone rushes for Ramondre, 4 for Henderson. 76% of the snaps for Ramondre compared to 20% for Henderson. When not in the red zone, it was 66% for Ramondre, 29% for Henderson. So there was a bit of a distinction there for sure. Let's see this. 10 yards. From inside the 10-yard line, it was 8 runs for Ramondre, 1 for Henderson, 87% of the snaps for Ramondre. Definitely could be his role. We'll see what it looks like coming out. That's what it was before. All right. New Orleans Saints. I'm pretty sure it's just Kamara. Like Neil's playing a little bit, but yeah, he's not getting the ball a lot. They have been throwing to him a lot. I think he's a sneaky PPR option. 7 touches in their last game. They were on bye in week 11. But yeah, 64% snap rate for Kamara, 22 rushes. This is one of his best rushing games of the year, maybe the best one. Over 100 scrimmage yards for Kamara last time we saw him. I've been really low on him in my rankings all year just because I don't think there's hardly any upside. Limited touchdown upside. He has 1 rushing touchdown in the year and limited big play upside. Plus, I'm nervous that he'll get shut down at some point, but he could sneakily be good. The schedule is really nice. Maybe it's just him. Neil, I think, is the lowest end of that, like Ollie Gordon, Jordan Mason tier, where he's not quite usable now, but maybe he could be. I guess he's maybe more like Tyjae Spears or something like that. New York Giants in week 10. We've got both weeks here. In week 10, it was more of a Singletary week. No. I've got this wrong. Maybe that was week 9. Week 10, it was 66% snap rate for Tyrone Tracy with 14 rushes out of 22 running back runs. 34% snap rate for Singletary. In week 11, it was 52% Tracy and 48% Singletary. 19 runs for Tracy, 16 runs for Singletary. Over the past 2 weeks, let's see the red zone splits here. Over the past 2 weeks, wow, 77% snap rate for Singletary and 12 of 14 rushes from in the red zone. Not even like within the 10. This is like in the red zone. It's been all Singletary. That could be some randomness with just the way drives have gone, but that's a pretty commanding lead. I was curious if he just happened to have the touchdowns, or if it was like clearly he has the role. 77% of the snaps in the red zone the past 2 weeks for Singletary. That sucks. That kind of makes neither of them guys you can use unless you think that the Giants are going to get to the red zone a lot. Tracy has played well enough that, 159 rushing yards. He's, 26 PPR points for the past couple of weeks. Yeah, he's averaging over 200 scrimmage or over 100 scrimmage yards over the past couple of weeks. The role's not bad, but it's not good. It's like the Kenneth Walker role from earlier in the year. But the team is way worse. So, and I don't think he's as good as Kenneth Walker. New York Jets. Let's just keep it rolling here. It's all Breece Hall. 2 carries for Isaiah Davis, 28% snap rate. I think Isaiah Davis, because he can play on passing downs, could play a 3-down role if Breece went down. 55% route rate for Breece is good. I think they'll get him more targets with the quarterback change. Saquon Barkley, 80% snap rate, 12% to Tank Bigsby, 10% to Will Shipley. They're mixing Shipley in on passing downs a little bit here and there. 4 runs for Tank Bigsby, had a big one. Continues to look like a spark plug for them, and I think would get the bulk of the running back touches if something happened to Saquon. 71% route rate for Saquon is great. 26 rushes out of 30 running back rush attempts. Saquon could be huge down the stretch. The schedule is really nice. We haven't seen the explosive plays. 10 PPR points even with all this great usage. And like I said, the Lane Johnson note is obviously scary. Jaylen Warren, even early on, it wasn't just the injury. At least that's the way it felt watching it. So in the first quarter, it was 65% snap rate for Warren compared to 41% for Gainwell. And Warren got 5 rushes. Gainwell got 3, but Gainwell also had 2 catches and a touchdown. But 71% route rate for Warren in the first quarter. So that's pretty good. But yeah, as the game went on, Warren got a little banged up. We saw Gainwell really mix in and play a lot. 60% snap rate overall is what Gainwell finished with. This is his second freaking 30 PPR point game this year, which is so crazy. He's been really good. He gets that ball and he's got conviction. He's got gumption. He's been really fun to watch. Like it just feels like something might happen every time he gets the ball. I really hope Warren gets feeling better though, with all that said, because I have a lot of you guys know I'm invested in the little buff boys. Got a lot of Jaylen Warren on my fantasy teams. Brian Robinson continues to mix in. Not that it matters that much right now, but he would probably handle most of the work if something happened to CMC. 74% route rate for CMC. This was like a ho-hum game. 6 targets, right, from a receiving standpoint. 6 targets, 40 yards, and a touchdown. I say that because, as I was looking at yard per out run rates today, he's like at the very top with the best receivers in the league, and it's just so freaking nuts. 35 PPR points, just an animal. First 3 touchdown game of the year. Maybe that's a coincidence that came with the return of Brock Purdy. Could be a huge finish to the season for CMC. 3rd straight game since the bye week, 3 of 3 for Kenneth Walker, out snapping Zach Charbonnet. 20 PPR points for him, 7 for Zach Charbonnet. So that's huge. Kenneth Walker teams got their first win of the year. 16 out of 29 running back rushes in this game. The Seahawks are one of the most run-heavy teams in the league, and just leaning into that more and more lately. I feel pretty good about Kenneth Walker. We listed him as one of the potential league-winning players, one of the players you might be able to get your hands on that isn't super expensive for fantasy, that honestly could be a league-winning type of player for you down the stretch. So if you want to hear more about that, check out the Wednesday episode. That's today, the Tuesday episode of Beyond the Box Score that I did with Dan. I think Charbonnet, I've got him in a few spots, and I've been starting him just like riding the touchdown roulette train, but I think it's kind of over, kind of drying up for him. Mike McDonald was like quoted saying that Ken Walker just keeps earning more and more. Tampa Bay, 34 PPR points for Sean Tucker. What a game. Go off. 3 touchdowns, 21 touches, 46% snap rates where he settled in. But if you look at like third and fourth quarter here, I think it was like up around 70%. Nope, 55%, but 10 of 11 running back runs. He's a stud. He can do this. I think that he'll mostly just get put back on the shelf if Bucky's back. If Bucky can, it feels like everything's good lower body. And so if he can get in and take a hit, I think he's going to do it. I think it's time. They're gearing up for the playoffs, and he's their best option on all 3 downs, really. So my guess is that Tucker and White mix in as change of pace options. And if either of them immediately provides a spark, then they'll probably get a few more touches. That's kind of how Todd Bowles and the Bucs have seemed to handle it this year. Is like if somebody gives him something, they kind of keep going to him for a little bit. But I do think eventually it all roads lead back to Bucky. He's the engine. Tennessee Titans. Tyjae Spears, like I've got some really deep dynasty leagues where I'm just kind of plugging him in full PPR because of this. He had 4 carries for 3 yards. It was a terrible game. For a lot of the game, he had like 0 points, but he ends up with 8.5 PPR points. And there's the potential for a lot more than that if he gets explosive plays, which he can get. He can bust off 1 or 2 20, 30, 40-yard plays and get you a good game here and there. Tony Pollard, it's just been the worst year for fantasy. Haven't been able to use him at all. Like at any point in the year hasn't been a good decision really to start Tony. So that's tough. That's one of I feel like Dan and I did a great job this draft season, but this is one where it was just a clear miss. We were pretty like cautiously optimistic that Callahan could coach these boys up and they can move some people up front with this offensive line. They've got some talent, and maybe Tony would be decent player for you. Maybe Calvin Ridley would be usable, but both those guys have been 2 of the worst picks for fantasy. So sorry if you got them. All right, Washington, 45% of the snaps to Rodriguez, 27% to JCM, 25% to Jeremy McNichols. C-Rod ran more routes than McNichols, which is interesting. I feel like McNichols has played freaking great this year, but they haven't really got him on the field quite as much. I think he did get a little banged up a couple weeks ago, if I remember right. I'm really surprised they keep getting Bill in, honestly. It feels like Rodriguez has done enough to take like a commanding lead. We'll see what it looks like out of the bye. I'm curious if it's like something, I feel like situationally they sometimes go to C-Rod in short yard situations. Yeah, okay. So in this game, at least, when they needed 3 or fewer yards, it was 90% Rodriguez snap rate. He got all 6 running back runs in those types of situations. Over the past 2 weeks, yeah, he has all 8 runs in short yard situations. He's a beast. I've talked about him a lot this week. For the past month, he has 12 out of 17 running back runs when 3 or fewer yards are needed to gain a first down. Chris Rodriguez, he is a tank. I think he weighs like 230. Distance to goal inside the 10-yard line. Not that they get there very often. Yeah, it's pretty even split here. 40% snap rate for him, 40% for Bill. This is over the past couple of weeks. All the running backs have had multiple touches over the past couple of weeks from inside the 10. So still some light for Bill, but it sure feels like things are trending towards C-Rod. Alrighty. We've got pass catchers to get into as well. I'm going to just take a moment to catch up with the chat here before I dig in. Again, thank you all for being here. If for some reason you forgot to like, please do. support the show. We've got a lot of good stuff for you coming up to get you in the playoff. Make sure you know everything you need to know. Kelsey and Breece Hall for Henderson. I think I'm fine with that, Johnny, if you're still here. I think I'm fine with that. Oh, that's not Johnny. That's every single person in the chat asking this. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Henderson. Check out yesterday's show. Dan and I made a flag plant, and spoiler, mine's TreVeyon Henderson. He's the league winner of all league winners. TreVeyon Henderson. He's the man. Okay. I wanted to give you some separation score notes. Starting with the Cardinals. This is the past month. Michael Wilson has the highest separation score on the team. The past 2 months, Michael Wilson has the highest separation score on the team. On the year, highest separation score on the team, Michael Wilson, not Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that this separation score stuff is really, really interesting. I've said this before, like there's a lot to playing the receiver position, a lot more than just wide receiver or just separation. But yeah, Michael Wilson is pretty good. I doubt that he'll continue to be a really relevant player rest of season, but there's a chance. I compared it to Juwan Jennings on Monday's show. I think that it could be sort of like Juwan Jennings, He's a really physical player, and at this point in the season, all that some teams are playing for is pride. And so like I could see him just having a strong finish to the season just because like he's a dog. And the separation scores are paint him as a pretty good player too. Whenever I've turned the film on, I've really liked Michael Wilson. It's just been not a role that's conducive to fantasy success. They're force feeding MHJ whatever they can to get MHJ going because they're super invested in him. And then obviously Trey McBride gets tons of looks. But maybe things shift a little bit here. We got a different quarterback in. They're super high in pass rate over expectation. I get it if people just are like, I'm not buying the Michael Wilson stuff. But I feel like you might have something here. Number one in separation score over the past month, Matt Collins. If you watch the film, he's freaking open a lot. Like this offense is just working really well. That's why I brought up Booty and I keep hitting on the Patriots. It's like, I don't know if there's an offense that's working better. That sounds ridiculous, but just like the success rates mostly back it up. And McDaniels is just ahead of defensive play callers and like is finding open space over and over. And May is just hitting it over and over. So and depending on your league context, I think any of these players are viable for the Patriots. I don't know if there's a better offense you could be buying into right now for fantasy. Here you have the route win rates over the past month. Devontae Smith at the top. I think we're going to get back to Devontae Smith playing really well. Here's Troy Franklin. Keenan Allen has had a really good year. It's just that the role hasn't been as good. I think he'll probably get more emphasized down the stretch, as they gear up for the playoffs. Here's Jayden Higgins. That's a bit of a surprise. But he's definitely played better over the past month. JMO, it's a good development for him. We've hit on a lot of JMO stuff for you on this show. Keeping the lineup for Colton Sutton, wide receiver 16 in separation or in win rate over the past month. He's doing his part, And like I said, I think that there's reason for optimism with the Broncos that they might go kind of pass heavier at the end of the year. Okay. I've got the fantasy points data suite here to help me out to close things out as we look at the passing games. That's probably too far zoomed out for you, if I had to guess. Okay. So I've got route rates, average depth of target, air yardage share, target share, percentage of the team's receiving yards, their touchdowns, their end zone targets, their end zone touchdowns. So like Pickens has 4 end zone touchdowns on 15 end zone targets, George Pickens. First read target rates, catchable target rates, the percentage of their targets that were catchable. You see 69% for Justin Jefferson is much lower than the other receivers that have a similar yardage number to Justin Jefferson. The rates around him are like 84% for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Even Tetairoa McMillan, 82%. Way, way higher than this 69% rate. It has been tough. Here's a weirdly low rate, 69% of Emeka Egbuka. It's been a weird year for Baker. I also have here the percentage of the players' routes that were spent out wide or in the slot or as an inline tight end. And then on the far right is expected fantasy points per game and actual fantasy points per game. Jamar Chase leads the league in expected fantasy points per game this year. Second is Devontae Adams. Might surprise you. So I'm going to go through team by team, and this is here on the screen for you. So if you are listening to this, maybe check out the YouTube stream at your own leisure whenever you have the time. If you've got a team or a player or something that you're curious about, even if I don't mention them specifically, like you've got all of this in front of you on the screen here on YouTube, and you can pause it or do whatever you want to do to look at all this awesome data that is available to you. That's the main purpose of this show. Of course, I can't hope to cover every single thing, but give you an update on what's happening around the league. Okay, here we go. Arizona Cardinals, week 11, Michael Wilson week. It will always be remembered as the Michael Wilson week. 18 targets, 15 catches, 185 yards, and still we got 30 points from Trey McBride, our hero. 40% first read target rate for Michael Wilson, 31% for McBride. McBride, man, just unreal what we're getting from this guy. Over the past month, 31% first read target rate for McBride. The Wilson stuff, for as long as MHJ is out, which it might not even be anymore, but like, look, the rate was crazy for MHJ when he's playing. 44% first read target rate in the past 2 games for MHJ. 47% of the air yards, 29% of the team's targets. They were really trying to get him going. And maybe there's upside for him to finish strong if he gets back and is healthy, Marvin Harrison Jr., and the team continues to pass like this. But also, like, maybe just some of it shifts over to Michael Wilson, right? Like, I just am mostly pointing out that the role, the wide receiver role has been surprisingly fruitful here for fantasy in Arizona. And it really maybe shouldn't be a surprise because there's, like I said, the only team other than the Chiefs that has a positive pass rate over expectation every single week this year. And it's only gotten crazier since Jacoby Brissett has stepped in. Atlanta Falcons. Not much to make of this with Drake London going down. We'll look at week 8 again. I already mentioned that Kyle Pitts had the huge game last time we saw this. Had 9 catches for 59 yards. I guess we'll call that a huge game, but that was 34% of the team's yards in that game. So here's week 8. It was a 4-yard average depth of target for Pitts. I really think this was kind of manufactured stuff for Pitts. You'll see I've got it sorted by first read targets. 31% for Kadarius Hodge in this game. 25% for Darnell Mooney. When I've watched Kirk, it does not feel like Kirk Cousins trusts his arm. So I don't think there were very many first read targets in general. A lot of the time I was seeing him just turn down first reads and go to the running backs. I just don't feel good about the offense is where I'm at with it. But Mooney, the volume was decent. There were a couple close misses in that last game. And same thing here, like decent volume. They've been trying to get Mooney going. There's definitely upside for Mooney. Theoretically, I just think your chances of hitting that upside is very low. Baltimore Ravens, last time out, 29% first read target rate for Andrews, 29% for Zay Flowers, 65% route rate for Andrews. If this kind of usage is all right, 2 end zone targets for Andrews, maybe he's somebody you can go to if we get some good games from the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's got to play better. That's hurting a lot in fantasy right now. For the past few games, we've got a 28% first read target rate for Zay Flowers, 38% of the team's receiving yards. It just hasn't been very good for the Ravens lately. No end zone targets for Flowers over this stretch, which is pretty much what we've come to expect from this offense. It was DeAndre Hopkins stepped into a 68% route rate role with Rashad Bateman out, 4 targets for Hopkins. We've seen him flash at times this year, so maybe if he has to step into a bigger role like this, we can see better days than this. For the Bills, 72% route rate for Dawson Knox, 63% for Shakir. They went away from 11 personnel. They didn't use as much 3 receivers, which I do think hurt Shakir a little bit in this game because he's still 80% slot rate. 47% Josh Palmer is the next highest route rate. 44% Curtis Samuel. 44% Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is back. Here's Tyrell Shavers for whoever's curious about that. 5 catches for 90 yards, but only a 38% route rate. So I doubt that that's something you can trust. I just don't think, I think the Bills, it's just the Josh Allen show and James Cook most of the time. The highest first read target rate for any player in this game was 16%. Khalil Shakir and Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox had a 16% first read target rate. So they're just really, really spreading it around. Carolina Panthers. (27% first read target rate for Tetairoa McMillan. 23% for Xavier Legette. This is one of the best games Legette's had as a pro. 110 air yards for him, 108 for McMillan. 60% route rate for Legette. He got a little banged up. 72% for Jalen Coker. 40% for Jatavion Sanders is their top tight end route rate. So they're going to the 3-way split between him, Tommy Trimble, and Mitchell Evans, which means you don't want any of these guys, right? Even Jalen Coker, this isn't quite enough. This was a good game. He is a good player, but he's kind of capped right now by the role. Over the past month, what do we have in terms of first read target rate for T-Mac? 36% first read target rate for Tetairoa McMillan over the past month. So that puts him at 8th overall over the past month. And that includes Marvin Harrison, who only has a 2-game sample size here. So 7th. It's been good stuff. It's been really good usage for him lately. 4 end zone targets over the past month. That's near the top of the league, too. Holy crap. Marvin Harrison Jr. has the most end zone targets over the past month, and he only played 2 games. 6 end zone targets in 2 games. Some interesting stuff on MHJ here. I might need to dig it back into this. He played really bad in that game against the Seahawks. I don't want to say he played really bad. He just does a really hard matchup, and he didn't win outside of 2 or 3 plays. But that is a really hard matchup. This is interesting on Marv. I mentioned this wide receiver range a lot, that there's not much to feel good about outside the top 24. Maybe we keep the light on for Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe he's the answer here after Tetairoa McMillan. He's already been ruled out. Recovering from appendicitis. But it could be better down the stretch. Again, week 16, 17. I would think that they would want to get him out there if he's healthy enough to play, even if the season's lost. Marvin Harrison Jr., league winner. This has been the redemption arc year for a lot of players. How are we feeling about this, Chad? Am I crazy? All righty. Where are we at? Chicago Bears. The Bears. Rome Odunze, 5 end zone targets over the past month, 2nd in the NFL behind only Marvin Harrison Jr. Colson Loveland, DJ Moore each have 3 end zone targets over the past month. Overall, we've got a 20% target share for Odunze. Not where it was earlier in the year. They're spreading the ball around a lot. 26% first read target rate over the past month for Odunze. Spreading the ball around a lot, and I think going to lean on the ground game. They've got some really tough matchups coming up. A lot of cold weather games, too. So my local weatherman here, Dan Schneier, not feeling great about Odunze, and I think that that's warranted. 29% first read target rate for Odunze this past week. 24% for Luther Burden, was second on the team. 61% route rate for Luther Burden. I'm pretty excited for Luther Burden. He's looked good this year. Colson Loveland, only a 53% route rate. Cole Kmet ran more routes. Don't like that. Elliot, you might be the only person in the world who thinks that we need Kyler Murray back in our lives for these Arizona Cardinals. I have not seen anybody say that. I feel pretty good about what we're getting right now. It's been rough, man. And it's been rough for MHJ with Kyler, and then obviously the touchdowns have been there for McBride lately. Maybe Kyler's better or a higher upside option than Jacoby Brissett. I think Dan's point about Jacoby being so much bigger and just having the higher release point, everything being able to deliver when in like a compressed feel, like in the red zone, being able to deliver over the top of the line and find and layer balls in more in that smaller area makes sense. That is part of the reason that we've seen better touchdown production for Trey McBride. It never made any sense to me why he as a player wouldn't be able to score touchdowns. So it definitely could be Kyler as the limiting factor. That's something I've theorized a lot. Kyler is, I think, a limiting factor in a lot of ways. I watched the Seattle game, Elia. I did. All right, Cincinnati Bengals. We've got a big opportunity here for T. Higgins, who's played reasonably well this year. We know who T is. He can put up big numbers, and I think he probably will without Jamar Chase. The question is, beyond that, is there anything that we can feel good about? I don't know if it's Yoshivas, really. He looked okay at times last year, but overall his data was among the worst of like full-time receivers last year, and it's kind of been a continuation of that this year. And it's not exactly fair because he's playing alongside Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, so the data's not going to look great. You're not going to get many opportunities. He's flashed at times. You could go to Yoshivas if you need to. To me, it's more like Noah Fant and Gesicki if he gets back in this week. We'll see what his role is like, but probably just more Noah Fant. But even Fant, like 42% route rate this week. At times he's had a fantasy relevant role, but he was barely involved this week. We'll see. I don't have any strong lean. I think it's mostly just T. Higgins and Chase Brown. And you can check my rankings on Friday and on Sunday in the newsletter if you want to go with one of these Cincinnati guys and see who I've got ranked around him, because I hope you'll be able to find better alternatives. The Browns continue to try to get Jerry Jeudy the ball here at the end of the year, which is weird to me. 7 targets, 21 yards for Jeudy in this game. 29% first read target rate. Only 43% of his targets were catchable. So I don't mean to disparage Mr. Jeudy. That's what are you going to do? Harold Fannin was second on the team with a 24% first read target rate. Cedric Tillman's in as basically a full-time player now. 70% route rate in this game. 4 catches for 52 yards. 18% first read target rate. We've seen at times Tillman just be neck and neck with Jeudy as like 1A, 1B in this receiver room. And I think we could see that down the stretch here. 55% route rate for Njoku, which some sources have Fannin with more routes this week. Fantasy Points data, I like their tracking because they take out routes where like a player was blocking on a screen and stuff like that. And they have a 49% route rate for Fannin. So they have Njoku with more routes, which again, that doesn't really make sense to me. We'll see. I would think we're going to get more of the youth movement down the stretch here. But yeah, only 6%, only 1 first read target, only 6% first read target rate for Njoku. I think the Njoku days are done. Maybe next year. Dallas Cowboys, George Pickens show. George Pickens is a stud. Dan Schneider is a stud. Many great call-outs this year. This is probably the best one. 37% first read target rate for Pickens, 26% for Lamb, 11% for Ferguson. Let's get some Ferguson context for the people here. So, Ferguson has played in 6 games now, and that's weeks 1 and 2, and then weeks 7 through 11. He's played in 6 games with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb healthy. What do you think his first read target rate is in those games? I'm going to say it's like 14%, which is very low. 19, 20%. 20% is okay for tight ends. That's not bad. Maybe it's just lower lately, or maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. Over the past month, 16% for Ferguson, 27% first read target rate for George Pickens, 33% for Lamb. I still have Lamb projected to be the best player from this point on. He has 3 end zone targets, the 2 for Pickens, 2 for Ferguson. I think Ferguson, he's got 2 end zone touchdowns the past month. I think he can do that for you, but only 95 yards over 4 games. 9% of the team's receiving yards over the past month. So it's kind of boom bust. Only 15% target rate. The Broncos. It's the Troy Franklin show. 30% first read target rate over the past month. That is in the same range as Tetairoa McMillan, Nico Collins, Deebo Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Devontae Adams, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle. It's been a really good roll. And we're kind of starting to see it turn into some points. 18-yard average depth of target. He has 800 air yards over the... Okay, this is 5 games. Okay, it's like, that's insane. Over the past month, 645 air yards. Often it has not been catchable for him. I've pointed this out on past shows that he has like the lowest percentage of his targets that were catchable. But it was 75% catchable target rate this past week, which is a lot better. 83% catchable target rate for Pat Bryant, 83% for Courtland Sutton, 80% for Evan Ingram. It was a good game from Bo Nix. We give Bo a hard time sometimes, but he really stepped up in this game, and we've seen him step up enough times that he's not to be overlooked, I don't think. Yeah, only 18% first read target rate for Sutton. If you look like, so I can split it by game. We'll go the past 6 games, and we'll split it by week. And we'll sort by first read target rate and see how many times we see Sutton's name at the top of the list. Not any. There are 6 different instances of a player having a higher first read target rate in a game than Sutton's highest rate. Sutton's highest rate over the past 6 weeks is back in weeks 7 and 8. He had a 20% first read target rate. I don't understand. What did he do? What did he do, Sean Payton? This guy's really good. And like, this wasn't the case last year. It makes sense to me that the other players are playing well enough. I really like Pat Bryant, and I think Franklin has improved a lot. We talked about them at the top of the show. It makes sense to me that they're playing well enough that the role would scale back for Sutton, but 18.5% first read target rate over the past month, that's really low. Let me get some players that are in that range for you. In that range, we find Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, Jamison Williams, Christian Watson, Xavier Leggett. It's Darnell Mooney is like notably higher than that, 21%. He's basically just become just a deep threat. And he has no end zone targets over the past month. It's very strange. I feel like better days could be ahead. We've seen him be really successful player, but it's like, well, now Pat Bryant's kind of coming along, Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just kind of over for Sutton. Weird. The Detroit Lions. We've got 2 games with Dan Campbell calling plays. One really good, one really bad. In those games, it's a 35% first read target rate to Amon St. Brown, 20% to Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams. Sam Laporte had a 14% rate in week 10 and then missed week 11. In week 11, 44% first read target rate for Amon St. Brown. What did it amount to? 42 yards. One of his least efficient days of his career. This is a player who routinely turns out way more yards than he has air yards. This week he had 134 air yards and 42 receiving yards. It's really, really weird. So yeah, this is a low number for Jameson Williams. Just wanted to make that note. I've pointed out a lot of good Jameson Williams notes, and I do think they're wanting to get him the ball more, but it was 44% first read target rate for Sun God, 35% for Jahmyr Gibbs. That's a crazy high number for a running back. So we'll see. We'll see on Williams. I think that there's a lot of upside, but it's definitely not a sure thing. Green Bay Packers, 33% first read target rate for Christian Watson, 27% for Romeo Doubs, 13% for Dontayvion Wicks. Matthew Golden got in, but did not play much, 38% route rate for Matthew Golden. Luke Musgrave only had a 35% route rate. Matt LaFleur said they need to get him on the field more. 79% route rate for Watson, 72% for Dobbs, 55% for Wicks. It is Wicks and Golden mostly occupying the slot. My guess is that Dobbs returns to, being the most first read targets. He had a 31% target share overall. If you can use any Packers guy, it's him. I think Watson is the next best bet, but Jayden Reed might complicate things. I think Watson has played well enough. They really like Watson. They've been talking about him a lot this year. Like, I've heard way more. I follow Coach Speak Index, and I just listen to these coaches talk anytime I can. I feel like I've heard way more out of the Packers about Watson coming back than I have about Reed. I feel like I haven't heard very much about Jayden Reed coming back. We'll see what the roles are like. My guess is it's Dobbs is locked into his role. That he's basically always been locked into that role when healthy. And Watson cedes a little bit of playing time to Matthew Golden on the perimeter. Like maybe his 79% route rate is more like 65% or something like that. And then Wicks takes a pretty big hit in terms of his slot rate. Probably plays like 20% of the routes or something is where Wicks would be, with Reed mostly working as the primary slot. So a role similar to what we've seen from Reed, but it might take a few weeks to get there. That wouldn't surprise me. Okay, Houston Texans. We've seen more of the rookies lately. I wish we would see more, honestly, of Jalen Noel. He's really, really good, but only a 30% route rate for Noel. 1 target in this game. 49% route rate for Xavier Hutchinson, 53% for Jayden Higgins, 55% for Christian Kirk, 85% for Nico Collins. We've got a 24% target share for Collins, 22% for Dalton Schultz, 17% for Higgins. Pretty good stuff for Nico lately. Looking like one of the best fantasy receivers during the Davis Mills time. We'll see what it looks like. Beyond that, it looks like at least one more start with Mills. The Colts were on bye. Let's look at their 4 games before that. We're going to see a lot of Alec Pierce. 32% first read target rate for Alec Pierce. My guess, I said earlier, I think the matchups are going to drop this rate. 32% rate is really, really, really high for a player that is such a downfield type of player. My guess is he'll settle in around 20% or something like that, with Pittman being like 28%, Warren being like 26, 25%, something like that. Over the past 4 games, it's been 13% first read target rate to Josh Downs, 21% to Warren. This only takes into account the games that Downs played. He missed one of those games. So this is 13% over those 3 games, not over the 4. 21% to Warren, 26% first read target rate for Michael Pittman. 80% route rate for Warren. He's locked in. I've said a few times there's basically like 3 tight ends I feel safe with, and he's one of them. It's basically him, Kittle, and McBride, and kind of Kelsey, and then a bunch of dice rolls. 58% air yardage share for Alec Pierce, 24% target share overall. He has more targets than Michael Pittman over the past 4 games. Only an 18% target share for Tyler Warren. I think what Warren has done this year is really, really impressive overall. He's had some moments where he looks really, really good. But I hope you've kind of come to understand like why I was so high on Colson Loveland. And it's just the difference here in the top of the ranges of outcomes for Loveland compared to Warren, who's, to be fair, there's more. No, that's not true. There's not more mouths to feed in Indy. There's a lot of mouths to feed in Chicago. Warren's only had 1 game above 70 yards, and like he kind of tops out in this 18 to 20% target share range. We've seen some games where Loveland can get up there. He can get fed when he's like the primary tight end, and he can work down the field and stuff. To me, Loveland is somebody who can be unique at the position, like we talked about with Gadsden, and Warren is just like the best version of. He's not Trey McBride, but like the best version of a really good fantasy tight end, like just your everyday tight ends, your Dallas Goedert's. Dallas Goedert's really, really good. The best version of that. Like I play every down. The best version of Hunter Henry, Jake Ferguson. I play every down. I can make plays. But it's really rare to see an offense like based around a tight end. And that's what Warren had in college. And that's why I was a little dubious of him as a fantasy player. Is like, I doubt that he'll get that at the NFL level. And we haven't seen that yet. I'm curious I don't want to get caught up here too much, but I'm curious what the highest individual games are for Tyler Warren in terms of like target share, first 3 targets. Slight detour here. Okay. Tyler Warren has a 39% this is a target share, 39% target share in week 10. This is the most recent time we saw them. It could be a really big finish to the season for Warren. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Colts fare in this final stretch of the season here. They've got the Chiefs and then some other interesting matchups. The Texans, really good defense. The Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Jaguars. All of these teams are vying for playoff spots. It's going to be really interesting to see how this shapes up. So on the year, 3 games with a target share of 30% or higher for Warren. That's really good. And he's topped out at 41% first read target rate. That was week 10. 35% in week 6, and he had a 30% rate in week 1. So honestly, that's pretty dang good. There might be upside for him to be like the clear focal point of an offense. Those are a little bit higher than I would have guessed. The Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of Travis Kelce lately. This was, I think, the first time that Kelce and Rice have played together, and Kelce is at a higher first read target rate, only a 20% rate for Rice. I think that's mostly due to matchups, but I've not been super encouraged when I've dug into the Rice film this year, so we'll keep an eye on that. 14% first read target rate for Xavier Worthy. No player had a route rate above 70%, which is really weird. They mix in a bunch of different players. We've got 69% Travis Kelce, 65% route rate for Rashee Rice, 61% for Worthy, 39% Noah Gray, 35% Hollywood Brown, 31% Tyquan Thornton, 20% Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know, guys. I think these rates are also kind of low because they run a bunch of screens. So I think Rice is like actually out there playing a lot, but I think the rates just are abnormally low this week. Chiefs offense is a weird place right now. They really might lose to the Colts. I've seen people be like, why would we panic about the Chiefs? We know who the Chiefs are. And it's like, I just don't know, guys. Like, I watch them every week, and it has not felt very good lately. It's been some really good defensive performances from the Broncos and the Bills, but it's more about like the play calling and stuff. You don't want to second guess Andy Reid, but I don't know. You can't be the best forever, can you? I mean, at some point you start your Bill Belichick tour. I don't want to say that about Andy Reid. I hope there's no Chiefs fans listening. I'll lose my Chiefs fandom card. All right, Raiders, 94% route rate for Bowers, 94% route rate for Trey Tucker. Beyond that, there's nobody here, really. We're seeing Tyler Lockett start to lose a little bit of work to the young guys. But, yeah, nobody you can really trust, I don't think. They just force-fed Bowers, and it's really predictable. 29% target share, 39% first-read target share. 23% first-read target share for Trey Tucker is pretty good, especially with these being downfield looks. He had a good game. I think he's somebody you can plug in a flex if you have to. They're going to be playing from behind and throwing a lot. And nobody else is really emerging as a downfield threat. Chargers, 75% route rate for Gadsden. I think he's healthy. I think he's good. I think he'll be even healthier out of the bye, hopefully. 84% route rate for QJ. 66 for Keenan Allen. That's good. I don't really understand why Ladd played less. Did he get banged up? If you know Ladd got banged up, please put that in the chat for me because I'm confused. I mean, they'll come out of the bye and hopefully be better, but 59% route rate for Ladd. I need to dig into that. I mostly threw this game out because they couldn't do anything. But I'm seeing a 59% route rate for Ladd and a 50% route rate for Trey Harris. I know that they've used Harris like situationally, like they get him on their field for the jumbo packages and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if this, I don't really understand why Ladd would play any less. 85% route rate in the first half. Maybe he got hurt. Ben, I hope this isn't another faulty report. Ben says we got 294 watching and only 296 likes. Please, for back-to-back 2.5-hour days, please give a like for the podcast if you're in here. Thank you. Not many places you're finding all this information. Someone please help me understand what the heck happened to Ladd McConkey. 33% route rate in the second half. My guess is it's just blowout related or something. We'll see what it's like out of the bye. Something to keep an eye on. I would have covered answer me. Yeah, Ladd settled out of the fourth quarter with Herbert. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Good. Thank you, Covert. I was getting a little nervous there. Got a lot of Ladd. Okay. It's just weird because, like, why would Keenan Allen be playing still? Los Angeles Rams. Puka Nacua continues to play a little bit less as they do a lot of this three tight end stuff. It's Devontae Adams and Mumfield and Xavier Smith and players like that are getting a little bit more involved. First two targets of this game, which is Xavier Smith. Really weird game for Devontae Adams. We've talked about it. I went back and watched it, and there's just kind of no chance of some of these plays. But also some of them, like he needs I don't know if it's going to be qualified as a drop, but like he's not coming down with the end zone targets. I wouldn't overreact to it. Seattle's defense is so freaking good, and the role is so good for Devontae that I think it'll be fine. 52% of the air yards in a Matt Stafford offense. Most of the time, you're going to be fine with that. You shouldn't worry about it, but it's weird to get 1 yard from Devontae. 38% first read target rate for Puka, 25% for Devontae Adams. In terms of routes for the tight ends, it's 36% Higbee, 32% Parkinson, and 14% Ferguson. They do have Davis Allen, who they mix in sometimes too. I think if Higbee goes down, that more of that would shift over to Ferguson, but it would still probably not be a huge role. I think by the end of the season, he could be maybe playing 50-60% of the snaps. But for now, it's just speculative. I'm just really intrigued by Terrence Ferguson, so I keep mentioning him. Miami Dolphins It's 87% route rate for Jalen Waddle and no one else above 70%. Greg Dulcich has been playing more lately. I think Darren Waller's going to be back pretty soon. But yeah, it's just all Jalen Waddle. 35% target share for him, 25% target share for Achane, 20% for Dulcich, 15% for Malik Washington. Washington's made some plays lately, but the volume doesn't really support it. He's a really thin bet if you're ever having to roll with him in a flex. 38% first read target rate for Waddle. He had a couple of drops in this game. It was kind of a tilting game, but I think I still feel pretty good about the Dolphins down the stretch, and Waddle's volume is freaking great. The Vikings, 57% of Jordan Addison's targets were catchable, 67% of Hawkinson's, 67% of Justin Jefferson. It's just awful right now. The volume is there for Jefferson and Addison, but it's not really for Hawkinson. And so, like, he's not somebody I would ever want to go to. Even like his route rate is like 69%. Like, he's just like on a projection standpoint, from the playing time standpoint, he's like a mid-range tight end 2. And then when you add in the quarterback play, you have to get pretty lucky for Hawkinson to give you anything. 22-yard average depth of target for Addison in this game, which definitely helps explain the low catchable target rate. Schedule sets up real nice for these guys on the stretch. We know these receivers are really, really good, but it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough right now. New England Patriots, 89% route rate. This is what we've been so excited about with Stephon Diggs. The route rate was way up. We're seeing a lot of routes for Kyle Williams too. His average depth of target was 35 yards down the field. It's basically just perimeter stuff for Kyle Williams. I think he can do a lot more, but that's not the role he's in right now. He's just stretching the field. Matt Collins is doing that too, but a little bit more effectively. He had an 84% route rate with a 19-yard average depth of target in this game. I think we're just kind of, like, having these field stretches allows Diggs and Travion and Hunter Henry and sometimes Pop Douglas to get these underneath looks. Hasn't been very good for Henry lately, but 22% first read target rate in this game, second highest on the team. I think overall he's an okay bet at tight end. Over the past month, Diggs has a 23% target share. But yeah, it's been real spread around over the past month. Matt Collins is like tracking right there with Stephon Diggs in volume over the past month. He keeps popping up as a decent option. He leads the team in receiving over the past month. Matt Collins. I don't know if Kayshon Boutte comes back, what the role will be like, but he's been a dependable option for Drake May. Massive volume for Chris Olave in week 10. 29% target share, 37% of the team's yards, 44% first read target rate. Wasn't a huge day for Juwan Johnson from a volume standpoint, but I think we could see that move around. Brandon Cooks, the team moved on for Brandon Cooks today, so my guess is I'm not really sure, like Mason Tipton or something like that. We've seen him fill that field stretching role for them before. Whoever it is, I don't think it's going to matter very much. I think it's just locked in on those two players and dump offs to the running back. 35% first read target rate to Wan'Dale Robinson, 20% to Theo Johnson. In Jameis Winston's first game here, Isaiah Hodgins, you might remember he's had some blips on the radar of fantasy relevancy. 77% route rate for Isaiah Hodgins. Ran a ton of horizontally breaking routes. 6 targets, 57 receiving yards. If you're in really deep leagues, if you're in leagues that might cause you to listen to a podcast like this for 3 hours, maybe you're curious about Isaiah Hodgins. You should not be curious about Jalen Hyatt, I don't think. I think we got a pretty idea of what Jalen Hyatt offers us. It's not been something that has helped us win fantasy games. Mason Taylor's role scaled back in this one. I haven't seen anything officially on him being hurt, but it seemed like he was like less and less involved as the game went on. So not somebody I want to use. Adonai Mitchell is like the only player who had fantasy relevant volume on paper, but of course it amounts to 10 yards. But end zone target, 40% first read target rate, 53% of the team's air yards. 67% of the targets were catchable. That's not bad at all for having a 17-yard average depth of target. It's on him. AD Mitchell's got to catch the ball. And if he does, he could be pretty good for fantasy. That's why I've been bringing him up as like 40% first read target rate. What the heck? That's not something you just find on the waiver wire very often. The Eagles force-fed A.J. Brown, 52% first read target rate. I think that was the highest rate of any player this past week. Even still, we got 24% for Devontae Smith. That's not bad. Devontae Smith got an end zone target. Didn't have a big day for fantasy, but we've seen that it's been more and more Devontae Smith taking over as the wide receiver 1 this year. In the 4 games before Week 11, it was more Devontae Smith, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, 39% first read target rate, 31% target share overall, 47% of the air yards. That's where Devontae Smith clocked in his 4 games before Week 11. So we've got the narrative for A.J. Brown, got him more looks. We'll see where it goes from here. This Eagles team is so dramatic. Pittsburgh Steelers, 87% route rate for Dallas Goedert's really good. He honestly has a really good role if the team doesn't just go extremely run heavy. And I don't know if they're going to be able to. If Lane Johnson's out, I don't know if they're going to be able to just run the ball on teams. But their defense is playing so well that maybe it's just going to keep being really, really low scoring games. Pittsburgh Steelers, we got 35% first read target rate for DK Metcalf, followed by Kenneth Gainwell at 29%. Darnell Washington, 55% route rate. We need to get that number higher. That needs to be like 80%. Let's have some fun. Yeah, the other tight ends aren't really relevant at this point. 49% route rate for Jonnu, 39% for Pat Freiermuth, 61% route rate for Roman Wilson. We've seen some Roman Wilson moments this year, but they've been few and far between. Only 2 targets in this game. 67% of the air yards for DK. I mean, we've seen okay play from Mason Rudolph at times. And depending on Aaron Rodgers, what he's able to do. The schedule's good for DK. The volume is all right. You know, it's you've seen some games like this where it's been not that bad. I mean, 75% catchable target rate is 35% first read target rate feels like one of the highest rates that we've seen for DK all year. That's not bad. If he can get up into that range, which I don't really see why he wouldn't be able to get up into that range. It makes sense to me that they would funnel things through DK. Yeah, he has a couple other really high games. Week 6, week 4, 42% first read target rate, 38% first read target rate. I guess I wouldn't freak out about DK just because the last few games haven't been good. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. 26% first read target rates where he settles in on the year. That's not bad. San Francisco 49ers. 89% route rate for George Kittle. Kittle's locked in. I know it's felt a little weird saying he's trustworthy at tight end, but because the few games when he first got back were really rough. But this is a really good role. 89% route rate, 23% target share, 31% first read target share. We got 31% first read target share for Juwan Jennings in this game. No first read targets for Ricky Pearsall. I think he was mostly in the Shanahan decoy role, like clearing space. Some good routes on film for Ricky Pearsall. I think that he has some upside rest of season. 78% route rate. Shanahan thought he looked good, said he looked good, looked healthy. And he said, I mean, that's what he's been saying all year is he's not going to put him out there until he feels like he can do everything at full speed. And that's what he looked like. And when he's at full speed, he is really fast. 78% route rate for Juwan. Demarcus Robinson got out there a little bit, but it's mostly these guys locked in. I guess this is why I was surprised that I was lower than consensus is like 78% route rate with 55 air yards for Juwan Jennings, 5 targets. This is fine, but it's not great. And what if Ricky Pearsall gets more work? I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel reasonably optimistic about these two, but I don't feel optimistic that either of them is like a top 24 receiver or anything like that. If things break their way, they could be, but I think the offense is going to funnel mostly through Kittle and CMC. Seahawks. 96% route rate for Jackson Smith and Jigba, 82% for Cooper Kupp, 82% for AJ Barner, 73% for Rashid Shaheed. So what does it look like when the Seahawks aren't playing with a lead? We've hardly seen it at all this year, but it was basically this whole game they were playing from behind. And we got 3 receivers out there quite a bit. So that's good for people who are invested in Rashid Shaheed's success, because even with 7 targets and 82 air yards, Cooper Kupp gives us 23 yards. I think that's just where we're at in the Cooper Kupp experience. 50% first read target rate for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Just another day at the office. 30% first read target rate for Emeka Egbuka. He and Tez Johnson and K-Dot each had an end zone target. None of them scored an end zone touchdown. Only 67% of Tez Johnson's targets were catchable. Same rate for Egbuka. I think better days are ahead. 88% route rate for Tez Johnson. That's really high. 79% for Sterling Shepard. It's really high for anybody, especially a rookie, and especially a rookie who's so small. I think it's really cool that he's been able to get out there. Like, I didn't know if he'd be trusted to block, if he could run a full route tree, or if it would just be Tutu Atwell, just using him very specific ways, But he's been a full-time player, and this was the first game that he didn't have a fantasy relevant game. Other than that, he's been pretty dang good. I think he's somebody you can go to until the Cavalry returns. K-Dot's been pretty good too. 88% route rate's great. That's right up there with George Kittle. He's not George Kittle, but 25% first read target rate. You could do a lot worse at tight end. You could talk yourself into Kyle Pitts. Tennessee Titans. Nobody had a higher first read target rate than 15%. Both rookies got banged up in this game. DK barely played. Van Jefferson scored. It was a cool touchdown. Shout out Van. He has been disparaged at times on this program, but that was a good play. Gunnar Helm. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say here. 49% route rate for Gunnar Helm. 58% for Chigo Okonkwo. So like I said, it's better role for Gunnar Helm, but it's still, this isn't even close to fantasy relevancy yet. You got to be playing like 80% of the routes or something for the Titans if you're going to be on the fantasy radar. All right, let's wrap up with the Commanders. Deebo Samuel, 88% route rate. He looks pretty good. I think he's as close to full health as he's been in a long time, like since early stages of the season. 75% route rate for Zach Ertz, 81% for Chris Moore, 31% for Robbie Chosen. That is where we've arrived at this stage in the season. Did Jalen Lane get hurt? Because he actually has some good peripherals. And when I watch him, he has some big wins at times. Yeah, he had a hip injury, rookie Jalen Lane. That sucks. Because this would be a time to get him some playing time. Maybe he comes back out of the bye and is fine. I like Jalen Lane. I didn't know anything. He's not on the list of players I scouted this draft season, but when he got drafted, I went back and watched him and liked his college film. Thought he had a chance. I was curious to see how he would translate against pros. And the preseason, I was like, this guy can scoot. He can really move. He was making people look kind of bad in the preseason, but there were also a lot of plays where he got eaten up. I don't think he's just kind of smaller guy. He's had some moments this regular season. 33% first read target rate for Debo, 29% for Ertz. I think it's just those two, honestly. Alrighty. Elias says Gunnar Helm in his lineup versus Seattle. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think you've gone too far beyond the box score. Mr. Nice Guy. Juwan Jennings is a good player. San Francisco just doesn't seem as a priority in the offense. That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. He references the contract as incentive based. We've seen Juwan make the most of his opportunities at times, but just don't know. Don't know if he's somebody we're going to feel that good about going to in fantasy as long as all the other pieces are healthy. Purdy is here to dust the haters. He looked good. I hope he can finish the season strong. The NFL is more fun when we've got Brock Purdy playing well and stirring up pointless discourse between people who do and don't watch football. It's the AJ Barner show. That's right. That is right. Alrighty. I think this is a good point to sign off unless you guys have any other questions before we leave. CD or Rice? I did rest of season rankings at the beginning of the show. I do have CD Lamb just ahead of Rashee Rice. Feel very good about both of them. How confident are you in Hendo going forward? Mr. Nice Guy answers for me. Very confident. I don't know if I would say very. We'll see what the coaches do there. But if you have another 3 hours available to you, you can check. It's not quite 3 hours, but you can check out Tuesday's Beyond the Box Score episode. Dan and I did league winners, looked into a bunch of different players, and we each planted a flag. One player who is going to be the difference maker for teams during the fantasy playoffs. Who do you need on your team? And I chose Hendo. I chose the rookie running back attached to Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. What could go wrong? He looks so good. And he adds an element that the offense just does not have. And the schedule is so nice. Even if he's splitting work, even if he's only seeing 20% of the red zone touches and playing 50% of the snaps, as long as he's getting a handful of targets per game, I think that is a pretty usable running back for fantasy. And there's the upside for huge games. Like at any point, he could go 60 yards. He could do it multiple times in a game. And the matchups are so good. And this is an offense that's going to be at the very top of Vegas's projected points every single week, especially in these matchups. The coach, the quarterback, it's all there. It just sets up really, really well for Henderson. And what if it's not what we're expecting? What if it's not Ramondre Stevenson ruining our lives or whatever? Like what if Henderson is a stud and is treated that way? Could be pretty fun. Alrighty. Thank you guys for being here. Please do like if you haven't liked. If you haven't left us a review, please do so wherever you listen to podcasts. Even if you just listen on YouTube, it would be awesome if you left us a review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. I would love to hear from you. This has been a lot of fun doing the show this year. And I'm really excited for this offseason, excited to get a break, of course, but also excited to get back and have more time to dig into all this. So please stick around for that. If you got any questions, anything like that, leave them in the comment section here or in the reviews. Let's go win some leagues, y'all. Thanks.